everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you could only be here for one reason, and that's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you by Comic Book Clique. And as you know, I am never ever alone. Sir, please introduce yourself.
I'm the laid-back Dan, comic book man.
Dan, the comic book man, is here in studio, or his alter ego, secret identity, Dan, the comic book movie man, is here in studio because we're here to talk about one of the latest comic book films to come out. It is, right? It's only about one or two?
Latest, like last week.
Yes, we've covered the Captain Marvels of the world. We've covered the Into the Spider-Verses, the Aquaman, if you will. But this movie in particular needed a very special bit of coverage. Because, to be honest, I was very new to the character of Hellboy.
Sort of say about how everything went down with this movie, but
yeah, I was very new to this character, Dan, as you know, and so last week or 2 weeks ago, we went on a deep dive in all things Hellboy. We spoke about Hellboy 1, we spoke about Hellboy 2, we spoke about the Hellboy comics, we spoke about Mike Mignola. And all his work that he does for the character. We spoke about Ron Perlman. We spoke about Guillermo Del Toro, all in anticipation for this film right here, this Hellboy reboot. After years of crying for a third to complete the trilogy, they scrap everything and give us this Hellboy reboot with full spoiler warning. Well, not spoiler warning. To do our full spoiler-free, I guess you could say, review, I hand it over to you, Dan. What did you think of Hellboy 2019 without spoiling the good people of the Major Issues Podcast?
Directed by Neil Marshall. Now, all right, for all the Game of Thrones fans that listen to this podcast, if you don't know who Neil Marshall is, I'm going to let you know right now. He is director of the very special episodes, The Battle of Blackwater and The Wall. Yeah. One of the most biggest two episodes. Now, this is where Gary Marshall was able to handle the wildlings and giants. He's also able to handle explosions of different colors, of different magnitudes, and battles, and even fantasy medieval elements. So you see, the movie opens up follows the comic book, where they have the King Arthur setting, where Hellboy is like the great descendant of King Arthur.
Well, not too many spoilers up front. But they do deal with comic book aspects, things that we've spoken about.
No, that's what I'm saying. From the comic, like all that stuff in the comic book, you see all of it.
Yeah.
So you have Neil Marshall's. You see a lot of Neil Marshall's direction in the movie, but you also see a lot of the studio interference. Well, not even more studio interference. The producer interference that went down behind the scenes of this movie.
There was definitely some news there that we're gonna dive into, but I guess after seeing the film, we were able to kind of connect some dots, right? Because you watch the film and then you find out about a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes, and you're like,
and
that
everything
actually
makes sense. That's exactly when I was writing these notes. I was like, wait a minute, hold on.
But
that makes sense.
Prior to knowing that there was too many cooks in the kitchen, how did you feel about the film?
Oh, I enjoyed it. Entertainment all around.
Okay.
There was maybe, I would say, a grand total of 15 minutes throughout the movie that I was bored. So like there was like 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there, or a minute there, that I was just like, oh, you could have trimmed that.
Right.
You could have like not had that and then put something else. Okay. Or there was a lot of fat that needed to be cut.
Yeah.
Other than that, all the action was great. There's 3 big set pieces in this movie that I found to be awesome. There's a pig in this movie.
What'd you think of Harbour?
David Harbour is a really good Hellboy, but I feel bad for that makeup. The makeup really took me out of the movie, because like every time I looked at him, it's like his top lip couldn't move. Like his whole mouth just like went up and down, and there was no lip movement. So it kind of took me out of it a little. Like, oh, you guys gotta fix that. The rendering was bad. Other than that, him as Hellboy was great. Cursing every 5 seconds. He's very like he has a real big identity crisis, and I feel like in the comic book that's what they battle most with, because he is half human, half demon in the comics.
Right.
So he does battle this identity crisis of, I'm designed to be bad, but I'm raised to be good.
I also know that going into this, you, to my knowledge, rewatched the first 2 Hellboys?
I rewatched the first one.
The first one? Okay.
Yeah.
So in doing so, where do you think this fits in there? Not necessarily ranking them, but do you think this slides right in with those other ones, or is this a honest to God reboot that you have to scorch?
No, I actually think that this is a more serviceable sequel than the Golden Army.
Okay.
Like,
well, besides
a lot of the tone was correct.
Okay.
Hellboy working for that organization, and he has a father that tries and helps him, and a lot of Nazi symbolism, a lot of demon symbolism, bringing fantasy and horror elements. So a lot of the tone was there.
You spoke of Neil Marshall's work on Game of Thrones. He also has history working on Westworld, which, as you know, you have to build your whole world from scratch.
Yeah.
And Constantine,
Even
is very
better.
much Hellboy, right? That's very much the occult.
That was the thing. I see all of Neil Marshall, what he wanted in the film, and what you can tell is his work. It's fantastic. When it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
And when it's bad, I know that's the producers.
Right.
I know that's what they took away from the film, where Neil Marshall said that he was not happy with the final cut at all.
Yeah. We'll get into some of that messiness in a bit. Okay, so to round it out, I guess, what do you want to do this out of thumbs? Do you want to do this out of horns? Do you want to do this out of 10? How would you score this film?
On the entertainment scale, I would definitely give this about maybe 7.5. Strong 7.5 out of 10.
That's pretty strong.
For entertainment.
Okay.
For,
an average scale.
Yeah, like
average scale.
As an average scale.
So average scale, 0 being the worst thing. Someone would have to chain you to watch it. 10 being you can never get enough. You don't even have to eat or drink. You will just watch this movie for sustenance forever.
I would go with
Hellboy fall.
Hellboy would fall on the. I would show this to somebody who hasn't seen it.
Okay.
So probably 6.5, 7.
Yeah, I'm around like a 5 or 6.
Like if I had a cousin that's never seen Hellboy, and he actually wants to sit down and watch it, I would rewatch it with them. If I found it on TV on like TBS and it's like halfway through, I would throw it on for maybe 15, 20 minutes and before I throw something else on. Like it's not it's not a movie that's so bad that I would never see it again. It's just a movie that I probably wouldn't buy on DVD. And that's saying something because I have Corky Romano and Monkey Bone on DVD, so that's saying something.
Weird DVDs. Yeah. So I guess as far as I'm concerned, I had some issues with the movie, but it's very far, in my opinion, from the worst movie of all time. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, I like. We've sat here and done which is worse 3 times.
I think in comparison to. We've had some stellar films in the last 2 or 3 years as far as comic book movie films are concerned.
Of course, like magnitudes of events.
Right. When you think of like the Civil Wars and what that was able to do, even Wonder Woman, Black Panther, Infinity War, the stakes, the character progression,
the secondary
all that
characters
kind of stuff.
that become these solo characters that blow the box office out of the water is amazing, like the Wonder Womans and Black Panthers.
But there was, to me, this movie almost is a weird nostalgia trip to when they didn't have the faith to do those sorts of things. And maybe that's how that movie fails, because we should, at this point in 2019, have a little bit more faith in the honest adaptations of these stories, especially if they're successful. That's the whole thing I don't really get about people, is like, this made money, right? It's like, Hellboy itself, the property makes money. Same thing like Fantastic Four, the property makes money. Why can't you just take what's there and put it there? And we'll get into why it wasn't so easy for, let's say, a director to do so. But I would say that you almost need to see this film, and I think this film is going to make a lot of money on people just seeing it out of the pure curiosity. If they fall,
this movie should be seen out of just like. There's no way this movie can do that bad, can it?
People want to see which camp they fall in. If they fall into the camp of, oh yeah, it's as bad as they say, or oh no, it isn't. I don't think it's as bad as they say, but I also wonder if that is tempered by the initial, what I call, hailstorm of negative reviews. This movie got torched in a way that I haven't seen in quite some time, and it got torched in a way that I've never seen in a movie that I'm going to go see. Even BVS didn't get scoured like this right before I went to go see it. The reviews that dropped on Thursday for a movie that I eventually ended up seeing on Saturday were horrendous.
Yeah, I read 2 of them and I was like, no,
horrible.
I can't.
Full disclosure, I watch a lot of YouTube, so I was on Screen Junkies, and I dig Dan Murrow. I think he's pretty. I think he's pretty level. He doesn't have a gimmick. You know, like except for
It's like
that.
he knows what he's talking about with movies. Like I trust his opinion in movies.
Yeah, I'm not waiting for a theme song or some sort of, like there's a lot of YouTube personalities where I feel like he's kind of, straight laced.
Yeah, he's just there in front of a laptop and he just talks his heart.
He looked visibly angry reviewing this movie, and the more he spoke about it, the more you can see that he wanted to keep kind of a level head when reviewing it, but he seemed to just be getting angrier and angrier, which put me in a position because I know what that's like. We
all know what that's like.
Constantly as in the major issue studios talk about, let's say, moments in films that we don't understand or moments that turned all right films into bad films, and when those things happen, we talk about them with that fervor, with that emotion, because it's like you were so close. So I get that anger and that hostility, but then fortunately you were able to see it, and you were able to see it before me, and you told me it wasn't that bad. So I had a perfect playground to play in of absolutely disrespectful to the genre of movies. You understand? And come on, bro, it ain't that serious. And that was a perfect playground for me. And I felt like if you go in with the lens that it isn't that serious, like if you were going with the lens that this is something nominated for an Academy Award, I can see you coming with the anger of like, are you even kidding me? But if you come into this with that, I feel like it's a little bit better. And I would also say that although this is probably a taboo, statement to make, especially when it comes to comic book movie adaptations, you probably would enjoy this more if you've read the comics, which is not, and I will say this first and foremost, that shouldn't be a prerequisite to enjoying.
No, yeah, the book shouldn't matter. Just the source material it's adapted from should sort of matter. But
my thing is, I don't think that we're going to be the first and only people to make that comment, and I don't want people to be like, well, I just paid $16. I shouldn't have to pay $30 to get volumes and read through them.
And that's
true.
That you shouldn't have to watch. Yeah. You shouldn't have to go back and read a book to understand one key detail in the movie that half the majority can enjoy. Like there's this scene in the Harry Potter, I think it was Half-Blood Prince, where one of the characters was being introduced for the very first time, reading her book upside down.
Yeah.
And if you've read the book, you understand that that's how Harry Potter described her. Yeah. He's like, she was sitting there, pale white hair, reading her book upside down. But that little detail is like, nobody else is going to understand that. I'm going to look at that like, her character's stupid now. Yeah. Now you're introducing me as a stupid character because her book's upside down.
Right.
I don't understand the significance. Someone's not going to understand the significance of it. So I shouldn't have to read a manga or a comic book to understand this movie. But in the same breath, the likability I have for this newer movie might make me want to go back and read the book that it's adapted from, to see where it got wrong and where it got right.
And that, like I said before, I considered Hellboy personally as a blind spot. I saw the first movie and that was it. In preparation for this film, I was able to read 3 or 4 different volumes, catch the second one, rewatch the first one. I even almost dove into some of those animated. He has like little animated stuff available. I think that probably takes right after some of the other stories that were told. And then we had that excellent podcast episode with Dalen and Peter and Magic a la Mode, a super fan of Hellboy, and the way she spoke about Hellboy, and she had given me the preparation material, like, hey, read this. This looks like what was in the trailer. This looks like that, and so I was able to read The Wild Hunt, which is one of the stories that this takes a lot from. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm ready. I'm locked in. I've read the stuff. I read a bunch of stuff about Lobster Johnson. I read a bunch of stuff about the BPRD and a bunch of stuff about Hellboy. What was funny though is that in watching the first 2 films with the newfound respect from the comics, I don't think the first 2 films even nails what's supposed to be kind of cool about Hellboy.
No, not at all.
Sense. And it's the same.
It was murky because the thing about Guillermo Del Toro is I'm sorry for anybody that likes Pan's Labyrinth, but we as a nation have to understand that Guillermo Del Toro is not a good director. I'm sorry.
Ooh, that's a bold statement.
He can make make monsters. He can make that property, and I love his writing.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I love his writing. He deals with social dramas through fantasy elements.
Yeah. Like
look at the shape of water. That's basically an analogy for for racism and.
But when you consider that he made a Shape of Water after making, about a decade after making Hellboy 2, which has that weird Abe Sapien.
Played by the same actor, Doug Jones.
Yeah, it is. And Doug Jones almost made a cameo in this, and he did it, which is that should have been the hallmark of wait a minute, this is not going too well.
The theater actually clapped for one scene. I want to get into it later. That I was actually I don't know why, but it made me like the movie more. That the theater actually clapped for a certain scene.
They were receptive.
Yeah.
I say go see it to give it a chance. And to make up your own mind. I think that's one of the most important things.
And if you
in this
trust,
day and age.
if you're like once again, if you're a Constantine fan, if you're a Westworld fan, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, and you like the episodes of Battle of Blackwater and The Wall, one of the two most famous episodes, if you like them, you're gonna see his style. You're gonna see what Neil Marshall does, and there's certain scenes that you're gonna see is, damn, that's pretty murky.
This movie's gonna talk to you, and it's either gonna tell you what you like, and it's gonna expound on that, or it's going to annoy you with what you hate.
Oh, I think it's gonna do. I think it's gonna do both.
Either way, yeah, your opinions are 100% valid. I just don't think that this film deserved the scorched earth that it was given. So let's get into some of that. This movie came out in April 12th of 2019. On a budget of $50 million, it's made 13 so far. That is a little low, but it's only been a week, right? It's only been a week.
Yeah, but
so
it should at least make at least 20 on its opening weekend.
It's a lot. In comparison,
it came behind Captain Marvel on her third week.
Yes, in comparison, but it had a less budget. Captain Marvel's budget was higher. In comparison, Hellboy 1 had a budget of $66 million and made 99.3. Hellboy 2 had a budget of $85 million and basically doubled that in its box office of $160.4 million. But yeah, 13 out of 50 is not looking too good. As far as Rotten Tomatoes goes, our patron saint, right? Rotten Tomatoes, things.
Only 15% of the reviewers seem to like it.
Yeah, 15% on the critical score and 63% on the critical score. To give that some comparisons,
I'm not gonna lie, that audience score kind of seems right because
it's getting higher. It's going higher and higher.
The theater that I was sitting in was like they were very up and down. And we were all receptive for certain scenes. We were very receptive. We were clapping and cheering. For other scenes, it was quiet.
See, I went early as hell, so I did not get any of that. And maybe that would have actually, the
theater is what really makes it the experience. It's what sometimes it's what make or breaks a movie. Because I feel like if I'm the only one enjoying a movie, then there's something's got to be wrong with me. There's no way. But when a whole theater is enjoying the scenes I'm enjoying and not liking the scenes I'm not liking, it feels like the movie's doing something right. It's catching an audience.
Yes,
it's one thing when you want to if you're just going to catch one person, then the movie's kind of a fail.
Right.
You can't just catch those hits and misses.
Like I said, and it can't just be comic book fans. It can't just be like, oh, you don't get it.
I think a lot of people that went in to see it don't know the comic book knowledge. They more went in to see it because I remember Hellboy.
I completely agree. But yeah, I guess we could just lift up the spoiler ban. Let's talk a little bit about the critical response, the kicking that this thing has been getting in the news. So
crack pipe of a movie.
In the New York
Oriole
Times.
Oh my God.
In the New York Times, Jeanette Katsolis described Hellboy as a crack pipe of a movie and an oral and visual assault that left her both baffled and battered. Alex Abad Santos from Vox wrote that the film's nightmarish visuals are stellar. The real villain of the movie, it's rotten writing, which turns Hellboy into hanging action sequences loosely stitched together by 2 or 3 sentences and a vague suggestion of a narrative. And then noted critic Alan Zieberman said, Marshall and screenwriter Andrew Cosby went overboard with their R rating, introducing so much gore and profanity that, quite frankly, it gets dull. The flat performances and incoherent story do not help matters. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a taste of what's been going on, what they've been talking about.
They're blaming the wrong people. I think they're blaming the wrong people here.
There's a lot to go on, but before we bust it wide open, do you wanna get into the nitty gritty of what's been going on backstage?
Yeah. So what happened was, so I guess what I've been reading so far that it's very the details are very unclear, and most of the cast of the crew refused to respond.
Well, it's a week. The movie's been out for a week, so I can definitely get that.
But there's a lot of what happened backstage that couldn't stay behind closed doors, and one of them was the producers Lloyd Levin and Lawrence Gordon kept clashing with Neil Marshall over creative differences to the point that they were belittling him on set, making him do reshoots and reshoots and reshoots to the point where it made David Harbour walk off the set. He refused to do any more shooting for the rest of the day.
And you don't really hear anything unprofessional coming out of the Dave Harbour camp. Like you
No
don't hear
way.
like
He's a
he
very
almost
like
smacked Millie Bobby Brown.
yeah.
Like,
He's a very like nice
you know?
guy. Like I've seen like his Emmy acceptance speeches. Like
Yeah.
he's a very nice guy.
Yeah.
So for him to just say,
Oh,
listen,
he did do the speech for them. Right,
yeah,
that
he
time.
did the speech
Yeah,
for Stranger Things.
Yeah, yeah,
he was
you're
he was the guy that threw up the Emmy, like, we got this, we're number one, and we're awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy has energy.
Yeah.
So for him to literally say, I can't do any more reshoots today, I got to get this.
Well, I just don't want to.
I just don't.
Like,
that's really what.
That's the take I want. Stop telling me to do it
and
over and over
the
again.
producers, both of them together, ended up firing his cinematographer, his director of photography, Sam McCurdy, to send a message to literally like some mobster deal.
Yeah, I heard about this.
They fired his
also,
DP.
I also heard that it cannot be clean cut stated that that's why they did it, but that it's very apparent that person was close to Neil Marshall. Also,
no, that's his. That's probably a DP that he's worked with before.
For years, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably his.
So,
so they fired him to send a message to let him know you're not in charge. Just because you're, they said like this on the internet. It's just because you're the director does not mean you're in charge.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what?
Yeah. Which is, I mean, I don't know what you call that, a lack of faith, or maybe that was them trying to
maybe they didn't get the chair that they want. Maybe they wanted to be director, or one of them wanted to be the director. I don't know. But...
Or maybe they just wanted a putz in the director's chair that they knew that they could do whatever
and
they
that's
wanted
the problem.
with. And that happens a lot too. That happened with Solo, right? Like,
yeah.
You just want somebody that's
you want a corporate yes man.
You want a point and click guy, and he comes with ideas, and you're like, I don't know about all that. Now, don't get it twisted. This is not a Snyder Cut conversation where I'm like, there's a Neil Marshall movie out there and that thing is 5 stars and they muddled it. I do think it's kind of a confusing thing. I don't know how much of it is Neil. And I don't know how much
every scene
of it
that
isn't.
was colorful and had and had this funny tone, and people seemed like they were having fun, and the action was like these one takes.
Yeah,
you can tell that that's the director. But when you have the beginning, that stupid King Arthur opening where he stabs the Mila Jovovich and the blood goes into the tree.
There was a lot of
with Ian McShane's voiceover. That
none
whole
of the times that
sloppy ending.
None of the time that Mila is beheaded looks real. None of that.
Dude,
and I don't know how you do that.
Have you ever seen The Voices with Ryan Reynolds?
I don't think so. Is that a scary movie?
It's a horror comedy where Ryan Reynolds
horror comedy?
Okay, Ryan Reynolds hears voices in his head, and he talks to his dog and his cat tells him to kill people, and his dog tells him to be good.
Was Buffy a horror comedy?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
The first movie.
Yeah.
Okay. And My Boyfriend's Back is a horror comedy, right?
I haven't seen. No, I know My Boyfriend's Back, but I haven't seen it.
I'm sorry. I'm just over here.
There was a scene in The Voices where Ryan Reynolds accidentally blase and spoiler. Anyways, there's a head in a fridge that looks more real than Mila Jovovich's head in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, beheaded anime heads have always looked weird. I'm trying to think right now if I have a better one, like, this was obviously head, but it's just like
the reanimated head from Scary Movie looked better than the head in this one, where she was complaining. But I will say that this is from the old girlfriend, that what her liking of this movie was the scene when they were stitching her back together and they had all her body parts.
Yes.
She's never seen a movie where somebody is being stitched back together and they show that they're in real pain and that it hurts. And the fact that she was like screaming and going and you see like it's hard to like stitch her back together and they're really poking through the skin. She said that she loved that because she's never seen like an evil villain like that be realistically stitched back together and it hurts.
Okay. I liked a lot of the like creature designs and the
that crab lady was awesome.
Baba Yaga.
The Baba Yaga, that was awesome.
That's of legend. That's a Russian legend.
That's the boogeyman.
Yes.
That's what they call John Wick.
From two sources. One, John Wick, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit. And two, Ant-Man and the Wasp, where they're talking about the Baba Yaga, and then Ghost shows up. And and it leaves, and everyone's like, Baba Yaga. They all like scared.
The Ant-Man's guys, the Russian dude.
Yeah, they're talking about, he's like the Baba Yaga. So, yes, Baba Yaga's in this, looks absolutely terrifying. It's played by two people. It's played by a female named Emma Tate, but Troy James plays the actual person. Now, The reason
Oh,
why
like
I know
the
Troy James, is because he was in an episode of The Flash where he played, I want to say, a character called Ragdoll. And so he's one of those like contortionist, walking on your hands, neck thing. Like all of that is
Oh,
him.
so it's like hiring Ray Park to do
Exactly.
the
Yes.
wire work.
Yes. And so that all of that, the way she was moving was so unnatural and
Oh no, but when she was like crawling backwards and had the knives
weird,
in her hand,
the
that
weird,
was
like,
that scene.
size
That,
kind of
that was
stuff.
like bugging me out. I was like, yo, that's actually pretty. I'd be scared, honestly.
I like that. I like her little chicken house.
Oh yeah, when it was walking.
I like the bat in the beginning of the film, the vampire bat.
That is what honestly sold me. Because what happened was when the movie started with that stupid King Arthur thing, I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
And then you see Hellboy, and he goes into the Mexican wrestling place, and I'm like, oh, okay, now we're getting into it. And then it started going back with the talking, and I'm just like, okay, no, then it gets me up again, and then it goes down, and it was a roller coaster of different creative differences,
and not enough to kind of keep you.
Like it had me interested, and then it was like I said, like every 10 minutes there was like 2 minutes of drag, and I'm just like, okay, come on, let's get this going, this going. Like the scene where the guy was doing the bullet to kill Hellboy.
Yeah,
I didn't want to see that. I didn't care for that.
That's one thing I'll say about this movie off the top. I do think it was too long. And I normally don't have that inclination.
Oh,
like,
no, it was at least 20 minutes too long.
At one point, I'm like, is this over? And then the way that it ends, which we'll get to, it kind of just ends. Like something happens, and then it just plays the movie is over music, and it pans out.
Kickstart my house.
No, but you know, like when a movie's about to end, they play a certain kind of song.
Oh,
to
yeah.
let you know that the credits are about to roll. Like they play a song, they pull back, and I'm like, oh, it's all over? What about the big threat that there's other people just ended? They just all disappeared. They all fell, and they all just disappeared. We'll get there in a second. But I had a bit of an issue with Ian McShane's Professor Broom.
Wow, I actually liked Ian McShane. Ian McShane's always a win for me.
So Ian McShane is usually a win for me. He was one of the best parts of that Bad Pirates movie. I like Ian McShane. I actually like him a lot. My issue is his character of Professor Broom in this is indistinguishable from his John Wick character, which is probably indistinguishable from his Deadwood character, which is probably indistinguishable from his Game of Thrones character. And so my thing is, in the Hellboy book and in the first Hellboy film, you're supposed to get this feeling that Hellboy is a demon spawn that is, his right hand is literally the key to the gates of the apocalypse that will open and release a 7-headed dragon that will bring about the end times. And the only reason why he hasn't done that, and the only reason why he's not even tempted to do that, is the upbringing of Professor Broom. Well, they Jonathan Kented.
Oh, let's not.
Kented my boy.
There. How did they Jonathan Kent him?
Now let me explain. So, in the first Hellboy film, Professor Broom is shown to be sweet and all that kind of stuff. Then they kill him. Remember Clockwork?
Yeah,
Nazi guy kills him.
This is John Hurt. John Hurt is like your everyone's favorite grandfather. So,
but that's the thing. In the Hellboy story, one of the calls of action to get all of this rolling is Broom dies. That's what happens. It's like the Uncle Ben thing.
Yeah. Right?
So imagine the Spider-Man movie where Uncle Ben doesn't die and he's also kind of a dick.
So it's like Spider-Man.
It's like, no, well, he did die.
But just before, he was still a he was a dick.
He straight up died. But if he was a dick the whole time and he's still alive, it's kind of like, what's going on? Now, Broom
so
does
you didn't like
die in this film.
That Broom died at the end instead of the beginning.
Yeah, Broom does die in this film, but I don't think it changes anything about Hellboy.
Yeah.
You understand? I don't think it's a catalyst thing. It's just something that happens on top of everything that's already happening. And because they couldn't get Broom right, they couldn't make him again. It's the reason why I say Jonathan Kent is this idea that the only thing that stops Superman from being who he is the upbringing he got from the regular humans. And it's the same thing with Hellboy. He gets brought up. Broom doesn't have any powers. He gets brought up by a regular guy who feeds him pancakes and lets him pet cats and brings him to school, treats him like a normal kid. So when he grows up into an adult, he almost doesn't understand why everybody hates him and why everybody's angry at him. Whereas Ian McShane's father gives him a gun straight off the bat. You understand?
Yeah,
makes him a weapon straight off the bat.
You gave me a gun when I was 8 years old.
And so there's a lot of why why am I here? Why was I born? Stuff in this film that wasn't in the other two, because in the other two he was loved. In part two,
Well, that's why this one didn't capture the identity crisis that
Right.
made the first Hellboy really good in a way.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the first Hellboy was bland, and all the blandness is being blamed on Selma Blair.
yeah,
I'm just gonna straight up blame Selma Blair for the blandness because she was having these scenes where she's just
yeah.
there was these scenes where she's like, "Oh, I got this. Stop, go," and I'm just
Right.
like, "Oh, come on, you could. I know you. You were in a lot of these movies. You're better." It's like she was better than this, but she didn't get the right direction.
Yeah.
But the identity crisis is what made Hellboy unique in a way.
Yeah, I feel like my favorite bits of what I gathered from the comics, what I like about Hellboy is that he lives in this completely batshit crazy insane world, but he's been around. He's been on Earth at least since the 1940s. So I think he was born probably in the 1800s, but he's been
this
around.
movie shows that he was born in
Oh,
the
definitely
Nazis.
born 1940s. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
the
did
Nazis.
same thing.
Used try to use him. Yeah,
Yeah,
how is it Rasputin?
Yeah, they do the same thing from movie one, which then again in the same sense I didn't really need to see again.
100%.
You know, we'll get there in a bit.
Oh my god!
I was just like, this is happening again. Like I got
all
this.
those flashbacks was nothing but plot conveniences.
Everyone had a
It was
flashback.
just plot armor.
Everybody got a flashback.
Yo, and like, how is it this woman just what was her name? That white, not White Witch. It was the
Hatley, the whatever.
that Harlequin or whatever. She looked like a 50s jazz singer. Like,
oh, Lady Hatton.
Yeah, Lady Hatton. That was it. There we go. Sophie Okonedo or whatever. Lady Hatton.
Yeah.
Just Lady Hatton. She was the plot armor of the film.
No, but what does she even do? What is she? Because she just kind of died. She shows up, gives exposition, tells everybody what they need to know, and then she dies.
Well, she essentially just
And
crossed over
scene,
Hellboy.
The scene where they all die doesn't even have, like, they just show up and everyone's dead. They don't even do that.
They did that a lot throughout the movie. It's like if you were cutting on your budget, it's like, come on, man.
Yeah, and everything happened already. You don't have to show.
Like every time Hellboy and the BDF deal,
BPRD,
the BPRD. Every time they showed up to a new location, the hog already had since been collected a body part. I want at least show me the hog for through. That's the fact that I wanted.
It actually reminded me of Justice League.
100%.
Where they were fighting for the mother boxes, and like at one point in Justice League, they're like, "Oh, it's right here." Like the third one, remember? Steppenwolf just grabs it and just walks away with it because no one's paying attention. Because oh my god, it's just.
But that's what pissed me off is like you are a Hellboy. You guys are like Men in Black, but for mythical beings from hell. So
that's what I'm saying. I think that I'm using the Man of Steel argument again. I think because you shifted Ian, because you shifted Broom, you then saddle Hellboy with a lot of father issues that he doesn't necessarily have in the comics, nor
he had a lot of father issues in this movie.
Does not
exist a lot of father issues
in the comics because his father loved him. Now his real father's a demon that wants him to open up hell. That's the daddy issues. It's the idea of fighting against destiny. Whereas you hear this is what I meant to say. This is all long form into saying this. When I read The Wild Hunt, what was entertaining about it to me was that when they tell Hellboy that, spoiler alert, he is one of the last descendants of King Arthur, therefore he should be able to wield Excalibur. And what they don't tell you in the film, which I thought was even cooler, is that if you're able to wield Excalibur, you also hold command over the legions of dead English soldiers.
That's crazy.
Every English soldier who died on English soil will be at your command if you're able to wield Excalibur. So the book sets you up for this big underworld war, because it's going to be Nimue and her blood demons or whatever the heck against Hellboy and his undead army of British soldiers or whatever. So it is supposed to be a hodgepodge mess at the end. That
I would have much rather seen that fight instead of the so fast paced way they killed her.
But because when he told all that,
or got rid of her, even
when he tells all that, when they tell him all that, he kind of just rolls his eyes. Hellboy in a lot of these books that I read with his stories, he's not impressed. He's been around for so long that it's like, and you will be the one to pull the sword from the stone. And he goes, Oh crap! Like that, it's that more. It's that kind of humor more.
And that's where that's
It's
why I feel like
hilarious
Ron
because
Perlman captured the character better. Even though I can't say anything about
so
David Harbour,
you
but
know it's a good.
Ron Perlman was a great Hellboy.
You know what's a good moment from that Hellboy? When he's pulling around the animal by his tongue and like talking to it.
Yes.
He's kind of talking crap to it, and you know, I felt like in this movie a lot of the jokes were that one joke of that's gotta hurt, or this is gonna be sore in the morning, or this is gonna be, you know, very like 80s action movie kind of stuff.
No, yeah, there was a lot of "come here, tough guy," "hey, sunshine, look at me," or
Yeah.
like "surfs up" and all
Yeah,
those
yeah.
one note catchphrases from the '80s. It was a lot of that, and I think that has nothing to do with Neil Marshall in a sense, and more to do with how Hollywood handles their nostalgia. And right now, for the past couple of years, '80s has been the trendy nostalgia for movies. From Stranger Things to It to these new coming of ages that feel like they like they're old style, like Say Anything.
Yeah.
It's weird. So like I see a lot of one note '80s action in this movie, and that didn't work.
Yeah.
But what did work was only 2 scenes had one shots, and I feel like all their action should have been one shot.
Well, see, I like the giant one shot thing, but to go back a little earlier, speaking of you know, that scene with the vampire bat, it's like that spoke to me of a man who's done this 800 million times. You know?
Like he was just trying to get his friend back.
I'm literally just trying to get my friend back. I know that you're all here, but I'll fight him. I know that, you know, this is it. This is all kind of weird, but I do this. Like, I wanted to feel that, but I felt like he was almost, what do they call that? Like doe-eyed. Like he was almost like a deer in headlights, and they were like, and you know, you can get the sword, and me and you can be married. Like he was very impressed by all the prophecy and all that. And then at one point, he keeps asking his dad, like, why'd you bring me? Why'd you bring me home? You came to kill
there was
me.
a lot of that
You came to kill
unnecessary.
me.
Why didn't you just kill me
You
already?
came to kill me. Why didn't you kill me? In the comics, it's almost expressed. I don't think it's ever said outright because he never has that question for his father because he feels like his father loves him. So, it's almost expressed that even though he has a very demonish appearance, they call him he's a little boy, and that's how you get Hellboy. First thought of that when they see him is that it's a baby, and so Broom never treats him up like anything else but that, and so there's already a deep-seated sympathy. But I feel like Ian McShane's Professor Broom would have taken him in just to keep him out of the hands of everybody else.
That's 100% what happened. And they even say, like, you brought me in to make me a weapon. You gave me a gun at 8 years old.
I felt like he was eventually going to say that, and we never get it. Like, he was eventually going to be like, well, I'd rather you with us than with the enemy, or something. And maybe that would have been a little bit of a creative, like, oh, damn, like,
well,
wow,
there was too much subtlety to it. There's so much. You have to. It's open ended. Like maybe if you interpret it the right way. No,
screw that.
Just tell us exactly. Just tell us. What else? Let me see. What else didn't work here? Producers is what didn't work.
the thing that really, I guess you could say, grinds my gears is that a lot of the excitement came from the idea that Mike Mignola, the creator of the Hellboy comic, was going to be working on the film. He had already confirmed that the film would draw inspiration from Darkness Calls, The Wild Hunt, which I said I read, and I also read The Storm and the Fury. What's crazy about The Wild Hunt is that that's the one that he gets brought in by the Osiris Club to fight the giants, and then pull Excalibur out to fight Nimue. Once he pulls the Excalibur out, to my knowledge, the comic ends. He never has the fight with Nimue. You have to then read The Sword and the Fury, and in The Storm and the Fury, I'm sorry, spoiler alert, he beats Nimue, but Nimue is able to, before she dies, pull his heart out and send him to hell.
See, all of this stuff would have been cool. Yeah, all of this stuff could have been cool. But it was the creative differences, and I bet you Neil Marshall would have wanted that. I probably wanted that stuff in there because that sounds like Constantine type style stuff.
Definitely.
Of getting something pulled out of your body and being sent to hell. Come on, man.
Yeah.
This is all Constantine that we've seen before. This is stuff in Westworlds that you've seen before. This out-of-world stuff. One of the coolest scenes, literally the coolest scene in this entire movie was a damn prophecy for 15 seconds when he had the horns and he was riding in on the 3-headed dragon.
I did like his transformation once he grabbed the sword, but
I felt it did nothing.
Literally nothing came from that.
That's what I'm saying. You're 100% right. Nothing came from it.
I try to do my best to write down what I consider the story beats, the different story arcs and directions. So we have the Arthurian legend, right, with Excalibur and the Last Descendant and Merlin and all that. You have the Wild/Giant Hunt, where you're dealing with all that and how they do it every so years, and legend has it, and yada yada yada. You have Hellboy's reluctance to hunt monsters in the BPRD, where he's like, why should I be hunting my own kind, yada yada yada. You have Hellboy fighting against his destiny to start the apocalypse and join Nimue. You have Hellboy's mistrust of his father figure. You have that weird Pigman's revenge. You have Nimue's revenge. I thought
if you just would have cut out
Baba Yaga's revenge.
Oh my God, that's right. That scene. I want to be back together.
They're all. Nimue's getting revenge, but the only reason why she's getting revenge is because Pigboy was able to put her together, because that's Pigboy's revenge, and Pigboy knows to put Nimue together. It was just a henchman from
Baba Yaga, yeah.
Because Baba Yaga.
So it was just a villain of coincidences.
3 villains are acting in this one plan, but guess what, Dan? They're all working to kill Hellboy, seemingly, right? Baba Yaga wants to help Pigboy
Baba Yaga's resolution in the film was probably the worst part of that damn movie. I freaking hated it because once she said what she said, I knew Ian McShane was dying. Where she was like, "Keep your eyes, but you're gonna use them to see the one person you love most die."
I actually thought the girl was gonna die. To tell you the truth, I completely forgot that she prophesized that early on.
I knew it was. Once she said that, I'm like, "Great, Ian McShane's dying." I didn't tell Jasmine. I kept it to myself because I didn't want to spoil it. But I was just like,
I rolled my eyes there.
I rolled my eyes so hard. I was like, really? That's how you get? You had one of the coolest looking fight scenes. You could have threw her around the room. She could have caught to the walls and jumped back like a spider. There's so many ideas.
There was definitely a lack of subtlety, because there's a moment in which they're sitting at a banquet table. She offers him some food, and then he looks at it and he sees a hand in it and he goes, "Is that a child?"
Yeah.
And I feel like in a better movie that wouldn't have been the line. Like, he probably would have looked at
he wouldn't have said it. He would have
looked at the thing, looked at the hand. They would have showed a close up of the hand in this soup or stew or whatever, and then they would have showed him looking at the door where he sees the hung children. And we would have been able to.
That's the
problem.
And
then Baba Yaga would have said something like, "Fresh meat's so hard to come by these days."
You are 100% describing my problem with exposition, because these are just lines that are thrown out for the audience, and it serves no purpose to the actual story or dialogue. No real two people talk like this. No real two people exposit information we already know. Because then what's the conversation?
And the thing is, Baba Yaga is supposed to be the boogeyman, so taking kids, killing them, like R-rated movie, go for it. But then go for it. Don't.
That's the problem.
Don't halfway go for it.
The problem is you had the gore where you didn't need it, and then where you needed it, you didn't have it.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty apt thing there. Yeah, like I said, I really, really dug Baba Yaga, but then that whole instance there, because Baba Yaga wants revenge on Hellboy, gets Pigboy to help her get revenge.
It wasn't even clear what did Hellboy do to her?
Took her eye.
That was it.
Remember, and then she was gonna get an eye back in the.
Oh, that kiss was just so unnecessary.
Oh, Baba Yaga's kiss was ridiculous. So when she did it, I honestly thought, and I don't know where this came from, that this was the beginning. Like, she was going to kiss him and her tongue was going to go up to his eye and take it. I thought that all of this was some kind of weird ritual that would get her what she needed. But no, she just wants to make out with Hellboy. And the thing is, she, through Pigboy, gets Nimue resurrected to destroy Hellboy. Nimue rises and goes, "I should marry Hellboy. Because if I marry Hellboy, we can get the apocalypse." And so, if Hellboy just gave in, him and Nimue would have been on top. Pigboy's dead, and Baba Yaga couldn't do anything about it. And so then what the hell was the point of resurrecting Nimue to kill Hellboy if at the end of the day, the first thing she does when she's alive goes, "I think I want to date that guy."
That's the damn problem. All of these revenges and the plots, it's like, once we get to where you're at the end of their story, it's just, okay, just write it off real quick. Look at the pig. He's beating the crap out of Hellboy and the tiger and that cheetah guy, and I'm like, yo, this crap is actually pretty cool. You got this big looking boar dude fighting Hellboy, and then, hey, don't kill him. I like him. I'm just going to keep shrinking you down to the size. Now you look like Scrappy-Doo from the first Scooby-Doo movie. I'm going
to shrink you, but not shrink you till you die. Shrink you to a point and then just explode you.
Yeah, like
because if you shrunk something, it wouldn't explode. It would just keep shrinking, I guess, till they got to the quantum realm, and then it would fight Thanos. But You don't squish something.
It literally looked like Scrappy Doo from the first
It did.
Scooby Doo
It
movie,
honestly
and then
did, though.
and even with the small boy, it's like it's not fair. It's not fair. You promised me my revenge, and blah blah blah.
I guess
blah.
small people mean small vocal cords. There's
Well, I
some
mean, I
kind
guess
of science
the
like
vocal
that.
cords are small and the
But
voice
still,
science.
it's
Cause
still-
science.
It's still why is that the part you're gonna apply science to? Of all the parts of this film that you're not gonna apply science to, why is that the part?
I have to say this here because I just read this right now, looking for the casting. Mila Jovovich defends Hellboy, saying it's
she defends Hellboy. I bet you money she wasn't there for shooting 80% of it.
no.
Every scene that she's in is in a green screen.
And I love what she says. She's like, it's always stressful on opening weekend, and Hellboy is no different. Jovovich recently shared on social media in the face of bad reviews. You work super hard to make something fun and entertaining, and you have to absorb the negative reviews by critics. But hey, that's showbiz, baby. All I'm going to say is before going to bed is this. All my raddest films have been slammed by critics, and it's fucking hilarious. Dazed and Confused, seriously, classic movie. Fifth Element, you would have never thought that was the worst movie ever made if you read the reviews in '98. Zoolander, slammed. Joan of Arc, disaster. Resident Evil.
Who was she in? Oh, she's
Let's not even go there. She was
she's the nurse in Zoolander. I was like, who the heck is she in Zoolander?
Resident Evil. Let's not even go there. Anyways,
With the 8 Resident Evil films?
every one of those films is now a cult classic. She's not wrong. They are cult classics by that definition. Every single one of them. This will be 2. Mark my words. I like it 'cause she's not wrong.
So this film to me feels like 2 different films mashed into each other.
You are 100% right.
It feels like Resident Evil. It feels like a mixture of Resident Evil and Silent Hill on one side, and Army of Darkness on the other side.
This is my big hand.
There should have been more Army of Darkness though. If they would have gotten more to the this is another Monday of it all, I think you really would have got somewhere. But
that's why they had it. They had it in the beginning.
But you know what I think is the problem? I think they made Hellboy angsty.
A little too angsty?
Yeah, man. And whenever it reminds me of Wolverine in Origins.
This was very Wolverine Origins-ish. I said that.
Where is your why are you so upset? We were all fine and stuff. And I get that you're really mad. And literally one person, Nimue has one conversation with him that causes him to disregard He goes back to the PPRD. He's giving his dad shit. He's giving, somebody else shit. He's like, maybe I won't do this. Maybe I will. I don't care.
Why are we hunting freaks?
Yeah, all this stuff. And none of it is said in hey, let's talk about this.
No, you're right. It's a very teenage angsty.
Everything's yelled across the room. And also he could slam a door and walk away. And it's like, you're the protagonist in this film. You're the hero. You're the guy I'm supposed to be like, I want to be him when I grow up. But you have a lot of problems, and don't get it twisted. I'm not the kind of person that says your protagonist can't be layered and have issues and go through issues. But this felt like a lot. This
was whiny Deadpool. Sorry, this was whiny Hellboy versus Identity Crisis Hellboy, and the way Ron Perlman just handled it was just.
And I think you don't need whiny Hellboy, with the character that Mila Jovovich played. You need metal Hellboy. You need, balls to the wall Hellboy. You fighting somebody called the Blood Queen, this could have been way better. And when I talk about metal, I talk about Ragnarok. Ragnarok dealt with a lot of craziness. This could have been a very
colorful film like Ragnarok in a sense.
If not colorful, then at least
I mean colorful
in
at least tone.
At least look like a metal poster or something like that. You understand? It really, with all of its imagery, all of its occult status, the legit legendary character design that is Hellboy, you could have knocked all this out of the park. Everything was there waiting for you, and you can do this with a character that you can't do anything else. After watching that movie and not liking it as much as I wanted to, I immediately thought of how cool would a comic series be of literally any comic book character getting roped into some weird underground paranormal investigation stuff. What if Oliver Queen all of a sudden had to start?
What if Hawkeye was a ghost hunter?
Yeah, what if they have to all of a sudden have to hunt ghosts? And it's that would be so cool.
Which Disney, if you're listening to this, please try and produce X-Men vs. Zombies or something. Give us something.
DC's
Marvel vs.
doing Deceased.
Deceased?
Deceased. And I think it's going to be some sort of
TV show?
No, it's gonna be a
Comic series.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
comic
I read like at Wolverine versus the Undead or whatever those whenever they
Marvel
turned like
Zombies
the
and stuff,
Marvel
yeah.
Zombies series. I read that Marvel Zombie series in high school, so I fell in love with it. That's what I'm saying. If there's gonna be a Disney Plus streaming service, they should definitely work on maybe a 10-episode miniseries of like Agents of Shield versus like zombies. That would be
Yeah,
dope.
that'd actually be pretty cool. I feel like another thing is, like I said, that level of, nonchalantness isn't in here. In the Hellboy, there was a Hellboy book I read called Weird Tales, where every story is like a 4-page story. And it's supposed to illustrate how often he's called up and deals with.
Well, that's what it is. It's like the Men in
at one
Black.
point he's called the world's most famous in paranormal.
Oh yeah,
investigator,
they said it in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
They said the world's most famous paranormal private
greatest
investigator
or whatever. And so it's like, yeah, that's what he's supposed to be. And imagine Men in Black, but there was no other agent. There was just one guy. Now he has, Abe Sapien and Liv Sherman. He has people on his squad, but a lot of the Hellboy stories is him solo. So imagine.
So like throw
Will Smith, like I said, imagine Men in Black with just Will Smith.
Jessica Jones in that kind of setting, private investigator for the paranormal,
and the way Hellboy is very Jessica Jones. He drinks
both alcohol.
heavily.
I was just about to say both alcoholics.
Cigarettes.
Wow, there's a little bit of a parallel.
He loves the people that he loves, but in the same sense, he doesn't want to be dealing with the people that he doesn't have to.
He doesn't want attachments to the people he's doing the private investigating for.
A lot of that. So it'll be like he'll come into a room and they'll be like, watch out because there's a ghost in there. And he'll walk into the room and the ghost will be like, who is there? And he'll be like, come on, come out. Well, I'm not dealing with all this right now.
And Ron Perlman was doing a lot of that from the first one. I remember him doing scenes like, "Come on, guy, let's not do this again."
You understand? And they were like, "But I want." And yeah, I know what you want, but I'm here to stop you. They already paid me the money, so I might as well do this job the right way. And I feel like if you added that level of Army of Darkness, if you added that level of Bruce Campbell, groovy, if you added that level of poking fun, and it doesn't have to be Deadpool.
I think if you just sort of fired those two producers and bring us in Sam Raimi to produce the thing, Sam Raimi and Neil Marshall working together to produce this, keeping their fucking DP, would have been perfect. Because firing the DP was just unnecessary.
Hearing everything together, I feel like this was destined to fail. No pun intended with the prophecies that are told in this film.
No, when you have this kind of traction in your behind the scenes, there's no way that they can be an A+ movie.
Yeah.
There's no way movies like Solo become A+ movies.
And not to mention that this was already going to try to fit inside of the shoes created by Guillermo Del Toro. And while those may not be the best shoes in the world, those shoes fit a lot of fans.
Problem was a lot of the good fight scenes were CGI to hell. The scene where Mila Jovovich was getting her blood back from the tree and she put her hand out.
What happened there?
It was so okay. Because what happened? I remember
the blood. So she was
when she got stabbed by King Arthur.
Blood.
Well, her blood when she got stabbed by King Arthur got soaked up into the tree and the tree held it.
Yes.
So,
but then they resurrect her sans blood, and she's able to stand.
Well, she cut the tree, put her hand out, and the blood just came from the tree.
So what was she before without the blood?
She had no coloration.
Right,
she was gray. She was.
So that brought her all the way back.
The blood would be the fine because she is the blood queen. So a blood queen with no blood is not a blood queen.
Yes.
So, but just the way that the blood was going from the tree into her hand was just it was so. The color was crimson. It looked milky.
She looked really modern. Like she did not look like an old style witch. I don't know what.
It was Mila Jovovich playing Mila Jovovich at the end of the day.
Yeah, literally whatever character they need.
Like insert evil character, generic something number here. So it's like there you go.
Let's go real quickly over this plot and just stop me when you feel like mentioning something ridiculous, which I feel like will be multiple times in this. But let's start with that old exposition that you love so much. Because during the age of King Arthur, Nimue, the Blood Queen, is betrayed by her coven and dismembered by Merlin and King Arthur, who scatter her remains across Europe. I did like the idea, like you have to cut her up and put her in different boxes. I did like
that was awesome. Yeah,
that does seem like something.
And then they scattered her like they didn't just put her in like 3 different towns. Like they went all across Europe.
You would think all across, and so this has got to be the hardest thing to do. Super easy, barely an inconvenience because Pig Boy just goes.
Yo, my God, he went from like Paris to Italy to like Germany.
He's good.
It's like
He's
what?
Fine.
How did you even get that
and then
far?
They even play up a scene for last. Remember where she's like watching TV,
God, I remember.
and
Yeah,
he
and
comes in. I couldn't understand that pig guy half the time. He had like this weird Cockney accent, and he was
it was all the that one.
That's exactly how he sounded. That's exactly how he sounded. He already had a bad accent, and he was also a pig, so it was very hard.
Oh, you don't even imagine what I had to go through to get this one. Why are you showing us Mila Jovovich on a couch? Why aren't you showing us what you went through to go through this one? That's the problem. I don't want to see her sitting
and
on.
She starts with the whole, "Oh, so this is what the world has become."
It's like, the Fifth Element all over again.
All over again. It's the apocalypse. We're learning.
Yes,
all that stuff.
Are you really going to learn the entire world history by watching TV?
Watching Desperate Housewives, and now you've decided that mankind needs to be destroyed because you've seen one bad episode of Desperate Housewives. Nothing.
It's like, listen, I understand you had to sit through the Keeping Up with the Kardashians. A lot of us do, but
rough. It is.
A lot of the channels you skip, but. Don't skim through those channels. Go to the movie channels or something.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
Or listen to a podcast.
I have a question, though.
I think if you would have listened to this podcast, you would have realized that humanity is worth keeping.
See, what would be funny is, if Mila Jovovich is flipping through the movie channels, would she come across a movie like Resident Evil?
Or Hellboy?
Or would she come across like
wow, this world looks
like
much better
this lady looks pretty familiar. I wonder who she looks like.
This robot woman who's not emoting looks very familiar to me.
Oh my God!
We see our boy Hellboy for the first time going to Mexico to get an agent named Ruiz. But it turns out
Ruiz apparently his best friend or something like that. Is a very emotional connection towards him. I didn't get it, but
he's a vampire, and then he stabs him through the ring post, which is kind of gruesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of those in your face death scenes that are pretty awesome.
Ruiz says the end is near, right? That's what
the end is coming or something like that.
Something like that,
yeah. And those are the 3 Spanish words that just set Hellboy in motion for the rest of the movie. That's just him.
And he says it to himself, and then somebody's like, "What does that mean?" And he's like, "Oh, it's something that my friend said." You just straight up just tell him what it means. Anyway, we see Pig Boy, because I cannot say that name. It's like Garugash. It's funny because I had read it a million times in the comics.
Garugash.
And then he said it in the movie, and I was like, is it said that easily? He said it pretty simply, but I can't.
Okay, you wanted to stop to get at something stupid? As much as I love this character and felt that his motivations were a lot more clear and cohesive to the narrative of the story more than Nimue.
Yeah.
I felt like this is something I would want to see. I would want to see a villain character who has a grudge against our guy get bigger and have that CGI.
And you know what? Guess what? This film should have been the film that he grabbed Pig Boy as a changeling from when we go to
that's
find
what I understand.
That baby.
Well, he was a fairy, but then he got touched by copper and then turned into a pig?
All of that's a story. All of that's real. And he does save that baby. It's supposedly a really good story. That's the only one I hadn't read. When I read The Wild Hunt, I got the same.
More interested in that than anything. I like that backstory. I like the girl by his side. I like that. Well, I mean, okay, that whole new best friend starts off as your enemy cliche shit. I can't stand.
Oh, I honestly think
I hated you in the beginning, but now through different reasonings and moral reasons, I love you now.
This is gonna sound probably pretty bad, but this movie absolutely did not need that daimyo character. He did absolutely nothing. He transformed once in the whole film, and you've already seen it because it's in the trailer.
I hate the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde angle where you hate freaks so much because you are a freak, but you have the antidote to keep yourself from a freak. It's the Professor X crap from Days of Future Past.
But they give us the trailer in which he transforms into a jaguar. And the very first thing that he says, or the very first thing in relation to the jaguar that he says is like, "Oh yeah, a bunch of my friends got killed by this jaguar guy," and we flash back to what I'm presuming is a fake.
Many flashbacks.
But that's a fake flashback or something, right? Because he didn't die; he is now the jaguar, and it's never explained that did he get bit?
Oh, honestly, I was zoned out with that scene.
Was he possessed by the spirit of Jaguar? And I know
I think it was the zombie effect. If you get bit or he got scratched by the Jaguar, so it's like the. So
is the original Jaguar dead? Did he kill that Jaguar?
I'm thinking it's the American Werewolf in London bit, where if the original werewolf scratches you and bites you, you transform into it and they die.
Okay, maybe that was the case. Yeah,
You never hear from it again. Hellboy should have heard about a jaguar that attacks a military or something like that.
Yeah, he has ridiculous scars on his face, and it turns out
that he's a freak the whole time.
Yeah.
Dun dun
But he
dun.
also doesn't look like a jaguar. His CGI jaguar doesn't look like a real jaguar.
It was so horrendous.
Was
it was
the
CGI in this movie was horrendous.
The hair around
his face was like all morphed in some weird humanoid way.
Soft, and you couldn't.
Yeah,
see
like
fur.
He was like bald. It looked like he was bald.
It had the right texture for like fur or hair.
And then his jaguars don't have hind legs like that. Those hind legs were weird.
Ripped out through the thing.
A whole American Werewolf in London transformation. It was just a lot of the CGI was bad. When it was bad, it was bad. But when it was good, it was good.
We find out that majority of this is going down because Pig Boy, who had been treated unfairly by Hellboy,
he touched me with copper after I was trying to kidnap a baby, and now I want revenge.
Yes, I think it was nickel, maybe.
Iron, I think it was.
Iron.
It must have been iron because he had his leg by a
horseshoe.
Yeah, he had him by a horseshoe.
It was a horseshoe, yeah.
It's like I was trying to do something evil and Hellboy stopped me. Now I want revenge. Insert cliche here.
So he goes to Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga's like, "Oh yeah, just restore the Blood Queen, the one that just got all cut up, and you'll be good. She'll take out Hellboy." So later, Hellboy goes to the BPRD and talks to Broom about going to England, and Broom tells him, "Hey, listen, I need to join this place called the Osiris Club, hunt these three humongous giants, they call it the Wild Hunt. They do it every year. Usually fight one. There's gonna be three, so they're gonna need your help for it." So he goes over there. He meets Lady Hatton, Queen of Exposition, who tells him like, "Oh yeah, by the way, that's another thing. There was absolutely no reason for her to bring this up. He's there to help with the Wild Hunt.
She really set him up to die.
She showed up and was like, by the way, here's your origin story."
Yeah.
And then left.
"Oh, you're Hellboy? Here, let me tell you everything the audience needs to know real quick.
About your life." So she gives him his origin story. And then they all just kind of bounce because they go hunt the giants. And he goes, "This looks like a place where, it could be an ambush." And they're like, "This is exactly what we were thinking." And they just start. This happens in the comic, and when it happens in the comic, it's shocking because like, why are you guys doing this? I thought the whole book was almost written like, "Oh, we're gonna go fight those giants," and you're like, what's going on? And the only vagueness that you get is what's said, which is like, you will never sit on the Queen's throne or something like. You would never.
They said, "Do you really think we would ask you for help?"
The rightful King of England or whatever the hell like that, and that happens. And so you're just like, what?
There's more foreshadowing, more foreshadowing for you.
A more interesting movie that you'd want to watch, but
100%. And then what I didn't like was just the whole abruptness. Like it was just so quick. It was out of nowhere. It's like, okay, yeah, I guess they're gonna betray him now for no reason.
And then tell me if I got this right. So they attack him. He runs / falls / gets knocked out and falls under the water.
Yeah.
And the giants just kill everybody else.
Yep.
Not the red man that's floating in the water. They just kill the three people around.
Well, what happened was from the way I thought it was brilliant camera angle because you actually see a POV shot of Hellboy and you only see his his big hand and you see like the thing of the water and then all of a sudden you just see a big giant fucking club just take out the guy. And I was like, okay. And then it goes black, and then it comes up. You see Hellboy. But this is where it took my suspension of disbelief, because I'm like, all right, you stabbed him a few times. Okay, no, you stabbed him a bunch of times. Oh, no, you're putting spears through him.
Oh, and also, all these spears are electrical, remember?
He's in the water. Like, I get you're from hell, but, I mean, I think you might... It's not about the heart stopping. It's more about your brain turning to mush or your teeth melting together.
I actually thought it was pretty horrifying, the idea that at one point they shock him to the point where his skin just starts smoldering.
You see his skull through it. Like, you see the skeleton
it starts to sizzle and stuff, and I'm like, this is a lot. But he's able to get away. In the meantime, because the giants come through and they kill the hunters. Pig Boy kills a bunch of monks to get the head of Nimue. Who's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, get my other pieces," and he's like, "Yeah, that's what I was."
That's
doing.
The only. that's the
doing.
only scene that we get to seeing the pig guy take out.
It's like because my queen, I will go and get all your pieces so you could be full and you could be whole, and it should be like, yes, Now you must get all my pieces so that I can be whole. And I'm like,
oh my god.
yeah, we all just said that. That's exactly what's gonna happen.
And
anyway,
it's because you know that each piece is in a church.
yeah.
So why did you like foot the
the
budget
one,
like that?
No, matter of fact, now that I think about it, that was probably the most metal part of the thing is the idea that an enchantment was placed on the box that has her head in it. That only a man of God can speak the enchantment and break the box. So he tries to get a man of God to break his vow of silence to speak it, and when he doesn't, he rips out his
vocal
fucking
cords
vocal
and eats
cords,
it.
Eats it, which I'm guessing then slid his vocal cords into where his vocals are, and then spoke. Like
Because science.
I don't understand the mechanics of it, but the idea that like I've seen that before of like I'll just rip out your vocal cords.
Well, see,
I can't remember what movie it was, but it was like I'll just rip it out. And
I think I've seen a horror movie that was like that, where like they did rip out the voice box. Like, you see them talking through their voice box thing.
Yeah.
I've seen that before.
What it was, but you can definitely do that.
And that's so creepy.
Or maybe I'm getting that from Jurassic Park 3, where they had the raptor, Alan.
Nora.
Oh
my god, a much better movie you'd rather watch.
Gosh. But yeah, he regains his consciousness. Hellboy. He fights some giants. That was pretty cool. And that's another.
The giants was like the best fight scene in the movie.
Another thing is in the comic, he what they don't really show the first time of him fighting the giants. Like it almost cuts away in the comic, and then you later on when they tell him the King Arthur thing, he's talking to Alice, and Alice is like, "What are you so bummed about? Like, be a king and take the sword or whatever." He's like, "You don't understand. Like, I don't mess with swords." But earlier today, I grabbed the sword off this giant, and they go back, and he massacred them. Million little pieces.
Which was an awesome looking scene. He puts the damn sword on his back, and he's swinging around. And so crap is awesome.
He says, like, I never felt more comfortable, like, whatever. And so, when he starts to kill the giants here, I'm like, oh, he's going to go ham. And he kind of does, but he kind of just kills them. Like, he throws one thing through one of their eyes. The other one falls.
That was what the problem was. A lot of it was, let me just attack the eye while I get beat up for the audience.
One of them was he falls through, right?
He falls right through the fucking
entrails
sword.
And stuff falls on top of Hellboy.
Oh, what have you been eating? And he burps, right? Oh, another basic insert fart joke here and all that crap.
I can't remember what happened to the third one.
The third one was with the sword. Remember, he throws the sword on his back and he's spinning around, cuts like his leg off, cuts anything like. Just stabs him. It was pretty dope.
He loses consciousness, wakes up in Alice's house, an old friend of his, a girl he once rescued from fairies.
She kind of reminded me of the actress that played Ghost in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yes, I'll agree. A SWAT team invades the flat because of Broom, and they're like, yeah, by the way, Nimwe's coming, so we need you to go to the Osiris Club and grab the last piece of her body. And that's when Broom is like, here's Ben Daimyo, he's gonna be your babysitter, which is exactly what happened in the first film and exactly what happened in the second film. In the first film is that regular guy, and the second film is that Klaus.
Well, I have to
smoke monster guy.
Because I can't remember who was his babysitter in the
first one. It was a regular human, the one that tries to date Liz.
No, I know that the actor. That's what I'm trying to remember.
Oh, I can't remember his name. I think he dies in that movie too. Then
M11, I can't believe they're all in Britain too, or London. Like you could,
but then God. Which reminds me of the Men in Black international thing. Like we're just gonna take the franchise to London or England and see how they deal with Brexit, and that's how we're just gonna how things are going on. So Hellboy's gonna go find this last piece in the Osiris Club, and he's with Alice, and Ben's like, "What are you doing? This girl can't come with us," and he's like, "She's the only one I could trust." And then they're like, "Ask Broom," and Broom's like, "Yeah, she can come." And so Alice just comes. She just comes
one of the dunnest
for the thing.
Were we still doing phrasing or?
Yeah, sure.
We're still phrasing.
They find everyone in the club slaughtered, and then what I know is your favorite part. So I'll let you talk a little bit about this. Everyone in the club is dead. So how the hell are they supposed to get any information? Well, our dear Alice has a special power.
I hate this crap. Oh my god.
Hold on. I'll let you describe it.
Oh man.
But she uses her power to communicate with and through Lady Hatton. Dan, would you like to explain?
Oh my god! Have you guys ever seen
Alice's
The
powers.
Thing? Have you ever seen American? What was it, American Haunting in Connecticut or any of those crappy movies? Green Mile. So basically, she could talk with the dead. She's like a medium. Once a body dies, she like puts her hand on like she puts her hand on like their face, and then their body pops through her mouth.
She like throws
She
up.
she reanimates them by puking.
But they're almost like a weird inside out. They're like a big.
It looks like a giant worm.
They look like an organ. Like there's
Yeah.
like veins and goo on them and stuff.
But then they're just a body from the torso
and they
up.
just speak. They just have whole at the ending. Ian McShane's having a half-an-hour conversation with Hellboy.
My God,
Meanwhile,
even Superman didn't get that kind of conversation.
Meanwhile,
with
Alice is like
Kent.
down there getting Ian McShane up.
Yo,
So,
that looks so messed up. And I hate it. Like, you might want to leave because this is gonna get scary. He's like, nope.
I was thinking right there, like, what is she talking about? Like, what is it? What's gonna be? So
and then it was
about?
just like she just throws it up. I'm just like, oh, this is so kind of.
There has to be a better way. There has to be a
That's
better
what I'm saying. I was like, I get what you're going with in the element of Hellboy and how special it is, but it's like, there's, like you said, there's got to be a better way to do this. There's no freaking way that she just throws up a whole entity.
Yeah.
And that they could actually talk and they're conscious and everything, and they sense things, and that whole screaming shit was.
They can tell jokes. They can do all kinds of weird things. Just like in this case, instead of just telling him from the get, Lady Hatton could have just been from the get. Hey, listen, Nimwe's coming. She's looking for a king. Don't be the king. They have to wait till she dies. They reanimate her, and she says basically that. We found out that Hellboy had that Pig Boy stole Alice as a baby. Hellboy saved her life. That's why they're so cool, and that's why Pig Boy wants revenge. Daimyo takes them to the M11 headquarters and has a special bullet that's going to kill Hellboy that he never uses. Literally, if you took all the plot point about the bullet out, the movie would be exactly the same.
That's the fat in the movie that I hate.
No need for it.
That's the fat in the movie that I can't stand. Is just I didn't need 3 minutes of him comprising a bullet from the saliva of Pope John Paul III.
I can't even remember it. I can't even remember. Tell you the truth.
It was the body fluids of 3 different popes. What do you mean 3 different popes? How do you still have the body?
You can't even be sure that would work. Like that seems like something that would work in theory.
You know that reminds me. It reminds me from Dogma, where she's like Bethany, bless the sink. And she blesses the sink.
Wasn't it Alanis Morissette?
It was Alanis Morissette that played God in it. Yep. Another movie you rather watch.
Isn't that ironic? I had to do it. Yeah, so then Hellboy's like, why didn't you kill me? And Broom's like, because I saw potential in you. And then Hellboy goes to an elevator, and the elevator takes him to Baba Yaga. He keeps hitting up, and it keeps going down, and then eventually takes it to some.
Yeah, I didn't know what the hell was going on, but for a while I was like, wait, how deep is this underground warehouse place? Like, isn't the facility already like underground? And then it went to the dimension. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool.
So Hellboy's like, hey, listen, I need to know where Nimwe's at. And she's like, hey, listen, then give me your eye. And he's like, hey, listen, I'll do that. And she's like, hey, listen, so give it to me. And he's like,
hey, listen,
nah.
I meant at the end.
He's like, yeah, nah about that. And she's like, oh, I'm so mad at you. And then she kicks him out of the house. And so he finds out where she's at. She curses him, and she's like, oh, don't worry, because you're going to see somebody that you love die, which we'll talk about in a bit. And then Daimyo explains the whole, like, were-jaguar situation. But Nimue kills all the witches who betray her. I like how she, like, crumpled them up. She was like, oh, y'all were the ones laughing at me. And she broke them all to pieces, because that happens in the book. Randomly zombies show up. This is when things just kind of just go crazy.
This is where you know it's the producers just taking over with their...
Every house spawn demon just starts to crawl towards Nimue as she...
Oh my God. Can you
weird...
explain that? The stupidity of the sheer fucking pointlessness of all these characters. You see about 15 million CGI'd monsters all at the Lion King top of the mountain waiting for Simba to be fucking thrown in the air. It's literally, I can literally drag scenes from every single movie that ever existed to make this movie. So they come, they're there, they're praying and ready to go, and she's like, come my children, attack the world. And then she gets shot in the face by Hellboy. And they run away, and you never see them again.
That shot looked terrible. Like all that CGI.
The eye is like out. It's like It's like, oh my god,
And
one
that's where
half
you
is
get
like blue.
That's where you get that Capricorn line about like we can't get together because you're a Capricorn and or I'm Capricorn and you're crazy as hell, whatever the hell. And so,
Well, I did kind of like that line because it was like very outside of the box from what the rest of the tone of crappy, campy lines were.
what I don't like is that he seemingly has the upper hand, and then she just throws a piece of her crown at Alice, and that piece of the crown damn near kills Alice. But that's reminiscent of part 2, in which they stab him with a spear, and they can't remove it.
Oh
if they
yeah,
try to remove it gets
I
closer
remember.
closer
I'm
to the
thinking this
thing.
was near the ending of the movie, and there was still a whole other 30
No,
minutes
it's
left,
coming.
bro. This was
No,
this
it's
was a
coming.
long
That's what I'm
movie.
saying.
This was a long movie because you still don't even introduce King Merlin yet.
And they're like, oh,
Merlin yet.
we know somebody that can help. It's Merlin. So then they go get Merlin.
Which makes no sense. Were you really in that? Did you like lock yourself away in there? I think he said that. He's like, I put myself away in here because King Arthur got too powerful or something like that. I'm like, wait, what? All better flashbacks. I'd rather see how King Arthur went crazy instead of seeing the origin of the Blood Queen.
Yeah, there was something.
There was so much good elements and so many good potentials in this film that you just opted out and went for the cliche shit that we've seen all the time.
I guess because it was easier.
You were 100%. It's easier to write. It's easier to write that plot point of, oh no, the crown is in her throat, but let's take her to Merlin where he literally pulls out the tracking device from the Matrix.
No,
I'm telling you,
this is the worst part to me is that and they keep saying like she's gonna unleash a plague. She's gonna unleash a plague. The plague is coming. She's gonna unleash a plague. Merlin's like, oh, by the way, Hellboy, I'm glad that you came right now in this moment because I wanted to tell you that you're related to King Arthur. And by the way, behind this wall is Excalibur. And so Excalibur is there and like shaking, like it's.
Oh yeah, it's like
shaking.
Yeah.
And so he grabs it. Once he grabs
Guessing
it,
that's how you could tell who's the King Arthur's bloodline is if you could
guess.
stop it from some Superman type crap.
So he grabs his sword and he automatically envisions himself riding a humongous dragon on the sword with his
horns galore.
With his horns and with his dragon.
All
his
horny.
Sword. Everything's on fire. And so he gets scared of that, and he's like, you know what? Screw this.
That's the one time in this movie where you see a real identity crisis with Hellboy.
This is kind of stupid, because he's all like, I'm not going to do it. And then he goes and he fights Nimue, and Nimue knocks him through a wall, and then on the other side of the wall is Excalibur.
Oh, yeah,
and then he's like,
and the crown of King Arthur's like, who knew it was here the whole time?
Yeah, and it's like, wait, what the hell? We just came from his.
I remember that. Well, he said he used all of his. No, he said he used all of his powers to bring it up.
Because they had no idea where it was at, and then we accidentally.
So it was underneath the most famous church in England. Are you insane? What do you mean you didn't know where? It's the most famous church in England.
It's ridiculous.
Like holy crap.
They find everyone dead at M11 headquarters, and Broom is missing. They reach St. Paul's Cathedral. Like I said again, Damio transforms into the Jaguar, and
then you get one of the best fight scenes that lasted 5 minutes.
Nimue kills
nothing but cursing.
Nimue kills Pig Boy, opens up a hidden crypt, revealing King Arthur's tomb and Excalibur. Then Hellboy, she's like, grab it, Hellboy, and let's be together forever. And he's like, nah. And then she's like, well, this is your father. And he's like, oh my god, I love my dad. And then she kills the father. And then Hellboy grabs Excalibur, and he becomes this humongous demon. And demons rise from hell, and the floor cracks up. I'm not making this up, people. The floor cracks open, and demons rise from hell.
I actually made this joke to Jasmine. I'm like, because when you see all those big demons that are like dismembered in different ways, I look at her and I tell her, I was like, tell me this doesn't look like the demons from Hellraiser.
It reminded me of Silent Hill.
They reminded me of Hellraiser the way they're all. Remember how the Hellraiser monsters were all dismembered, where their skin was stretched, or they were in these like weird razors. Yeah. I was like, wow, because this one monster literally was an X of body parts of other different people.
Yeah, and there's also like one of them has just basically a sharp knife for a hand, and one of them has a sharp knife for a leg.
There was the guy was collecting body, but he's literally his legs are just more body parts. He's stepping on people, and it's just making him tilt more. And
one monster rips somebody's face off. All this seems to be taking place on one block in London.
Literally,
one block.
You don't go to you don't. They did no such world building at all. Nope. This is the problem for a movie that said they went to different parts of Europe. You were literally just the backdrop of London.
So when this happens and people start to get killed, I was so past the film at this point that I was just like, this is whatever it takes to get to the end. And ultimately,
And it's you know what the worst part is all these monsters coming up from hell and killing these people, then stepping on these people. It seemed to have done nothing
and so
to the vibe of the world. Like the world was
No.
not scared whatsoever.
And after the fact, they finish when the movie ends. Everyone seems fine. Like nothing ever happened. Like somebody didn't get their face ripped off, or somebody.
The world is just another
through.
Sunday. It's just another Sunday in England. This is what happens when you decide to sign with Brexit.
So Hellboy has Excalibur. He has the flaming crown and the horns, and it looks like he's gonna be with Nimue and whatever. But then Alice throws up his father, and his father stands there for half an hour and is like, "Remember who you are, Simba."
Oh my God!
And then Hellboy's like, "I do remember who I am."
It's like you're about to die, and you're still gonna curse your son out anyways.
And so he remembers who he is. He cuts off Nimue's head. Nimue had no defense for any of this. She had no backup plan.
Because remember, the whole
of
entire time, she thinks she actually has the finger around Hellboy. Now, I will go to this credit because the very disassociative Mila Jovovich, the way Mila Jovovich was disassociative with her character, like she had no emotion but one goal and one goal in mind, the end of the world. And then out of nowhere, after being resurrected for like 1,500 years, she's like, wait a minute, I have a husband now. He could be my husband. It's like she felt he's from hell. There's no way he's gonna say no to me. There's no way I'm gonna lose.
I just feel like I didn't get a level of stakes with her, like
because they didn't give her a level of stakes. They just made her.
I feel like villains, especially
she wasn't even the main villain to me. She was the third villain. I felt the main villain was the pig. The second villain was Baba Yaga. Yeah. And Nimue was just that Steppenwolf character or the Doomsday character.
Yeah, in many ways, because Baba Yaga's still alive, and we get a post credit where she's asking somebody else to kill him for her.
So there you go.
She's very much still
there.
So
you had Lex Luthor in the film. You had whoever Batman as a bad guy in the film, and then you have Doomsday at the end. It's like, what's the point?
Weird scrotum-looking Broom shows up and is like, "Remember who you are?" And he's like, "Yeah, I remember that," and cuts off Nimue's head.
I'm not ready to go.
And then Hellboy and Broom exchange farewells. How? Whatever. And
poor Alice is just still there throwing things up.
And Daniel, right there in front of everyone, is like, you know what? I don't need this anymore. This special bullet that I was gonna use to kill this.
Hey,
shit
what's
out of
that?
You.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. I'll just smash
what was
this
the
thing.
point?
I'll just smash this really rare material that was made for this bullet all over here. It's garbage.
Oh, damn you!
And while this is happening, they just pull away and play some triumphant music, like the world was just saved. And it wasn't. Hell came to Earth and killed people. My dad's still dead. Like, there's stakes. And at the end of it, he's all like, just another day in the BPRD. And then they cut to 6 months later.
That's
and I'm like,
literally what it was. It was just another day in the life of us. This is what we go through every single day. And then the ending, I much rather have seen the last 15 seconds of that movie, the entire movie.
You ain't lying. Because 6 months later, they show Ben Daimio. Am I saying that? Yeah, Ben Daimio. Alice Monaghan and Hellboy, they show that those three raid a cult club where they find the water tank of Abe Sapien.
Yep, and that's where the theater bugged out.
Yeah. Like,
my entire theater was just like, woo, yeah,
woo. I was like, that's Abe.
I told Jasmine, I was like, even Jasmine was excited. So once she saw the tank, she's like, oh, and then she saw the name and like, I know him. Like, yep, you see the hand? And it's like, this movie's setting up a movie that would have been much better than this one, but you're not going to see. So what's the point of showing it other than fan service? This movie was fan service.
Did you stay for both post credits?
I did not even know that there was post credits, so I didn't even stay for the post credits.
So one of them is Hellboy drinking at Broom's
gravesite,
and then the ghost of Lobster Johnson shows up. They have a very, very short conversation where Lobster Johnson's like, "Oh, you're a fan? Here's the claw, the mark, the brand." Here's a claw, whatever.
And that's where he gets his
claw
mark.
And then he walks through Hellboy. Hellboy's like, "Oh wow, you're a ghost," and then that's how that ends. And then the last one is Baba Yaga looking at the screen, seemingly talking to somebody that we can't see, and she's like, "I need you to kill Hellboy, and if you can, I will allow you to die." And that's all you know.
It's somebody that can't die, that wants to die.
But no one would know just off the strength of this film, and this film is probably never going to get a
lot of this movie's ending was set basically the last 15 seconds and the end credits set up a movie of a sequel we're never going to see.
And isn't that the fun part?
And I hope, you know what? I hope we do see it, and I hope Neil Marshall directs the sequel, and I hope these producers aren't on it. I hope
What
David
is it?
Harbour comes back. I would.
Yes, I deserve. What is it? Yes, I. So, and I hope they burn in hell. How's that line go? That's what it sounded like to me.
It's like I want it. I want to see a movie. I for once. What is it? The last like 4 years of just bad luck of seeing movies that I want to see, but every time it happens, it's like here comes the
That's
studio
how I felt
that
about this, man. And Daylin, if you're listening, who was on our Hellboy episode, I want her to think that I don't blame her for anything. Her fandom is the comics are great.
Listen,
it just sucks when you point to something and say, "Oh, like I love watching wrestling. Come over for Raw, the Viking experience," and then you have to deal with that kind of stuff. You understand what I'm saying?
I don't think our podcast is ready for that. I think they're gonna.
It's gonna be called the Major Issues Experience.
Oh my god!
But yeah, this is not the movie. Was not a. The movie was
if
not
you
a
love
translation
Hellboy,
of
this
comic.
movie is not going to resonate for you. If you're just going to see Hellboy because, oh my god, I remember the first two that came out when I was a little bit younger, then this movie will resonate for you. Because a lot of the people that really sat in this theater watched Hellboy when they were 12, 13. Some of them watched it when they were a little bit older. Like
it's also very
like
much
in
a
their
film.
teens.
It's also very much a film that will pop up at 3:00 on TBS.
And you will watch it.
It's very much a film. You understand what I'm saying? Like this is very much Blade 1. It's very much.
No, I'll give it
like,
the X-Men Origins route. That this is very X-Men Origins. That's what I said when I watched it. Even both had a Asian good guy or whatever, anti-hero type.
Yeah, it does exist. It's not terrible, but we have done better. Now, I don't agree again that it deserved as much hate as it got.
Oh no, not that much hate. Maybe there's a little bit of hate.
Yeah,
I thought where the hate goes, it all depends. Where's the hate going?
That's also true.
Is the hate going towards the Mexican wrestling scene and the giant scene, or is the hate going towards the opening and the ending?
Yeah.
If you're hating on the Baba Yaga fight scene or any of the Giants fight scene and the Garage Ghoul whatever fight scene,
really barely any fight scenes though.
Because it's the creative differences between
and
the director
very expensive to make two computer animals attack each other.
Yeah, true. I think the makeup should have been done better, but hey, I digress. I enjoy it.
Oh, I had two issues with Harbour's Hellboy. One, there's a scene in which you see him and he has jagged horns because he just snapped them off. Then they go to a helicopter and they're smooth as eggs. And then they go back to his room and they're jagged again and he's just filing them. And I was like,
from the beginning where his dad was helping him.
God,
yeah.
I'm like, wait, no. When you were on that helicopter, they were fine because I remember thinking, have they ever been jagged before? And then they showed the helicopter shot.
I kind of remember them being a little bit jagged. I think
in Homeboys they were circular. They just and in the comics they look.
In the originals it was that shit was smooth as hell.
They were like cans or something like that, goggles or something.
It was very circular.
Right, but
perpendicular.
You had like the splinters in this one.
That's what I like about it because it seems like he rips them off every time it grows too big. Like I kind of like that.
I also did not dig what I feel like is an inconsistent red.
You are
like
not
The film,
wrong.
depending on where angle, he would be red as hell or like
Dude,
kind of
I thought I was the only one because when he was fighting the Giants and when he's in a lot of like lighter areas, like when he was in Alice's house, he seemed very pink.
Yeah.
Pink as hell. But then when you had him in the more darker lit scenes, he seemed very crimson.
Red,
so you are not wrong at all.
And I was like, I don't know if I like that. Like I like the straight up red. He looked more natural than Perlman, but in the same sense, he was still saddled by a lot of that stuff on his face.
See, I kind of felt that.
I
felt like Perlman looked so much more natural.
I didn't like his eyes. If I could have it my way, no pupils.
Oh, the yellow pupils?
Just straight yellow eyes. Do like a Batman or one of those things where you just have the
the makeup was so bad, but I can't. Like I said, I can't
eyes were
blame
too human. You gotta change certain aspects of him so I could be like, oh, that's not him. That guy is.
I mean, I think two things of horns and a big lobster claw is gonna tell you he's not human. So I think the eyes are all right.
Have you seen some of these true life I want to be a lizard things? These people exist. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, you got me on that one. These people are transforming their bodies. And
the only thing that I'm supposed to get off of him is the back hair, like that's not enough for me. Give me the cloven hooves, which I don't.
I kind of like this hair. I kind of like that he wasn't bald like Ron Perlman.
He had a look in the flashback that I liked. I think maybe it was less facial hair or something. But when he did the flashback, he looks more
when he was
natural.
saving Alice as a baby.
Yes, he looks more natural,
because
and I don't think
they
that...
made him look younger, and I like that. I like that he looked younger.
So get the antsiness out of my Hellboy, and I'll be fine. And go see it if you've gotten this far. I don't even know why you're this far if you haven't seen it. But yeah, some people love it.
If you needed somebody to tell you that, hey, this movie's not that bad, but warn you to tell you, hey, listen, this movie's kind of not that, and it's all right for a long movie. It's bad. It shouldn't be this long if it's going to be this bad.
Yes, I would say if you took out a good half an hour, and I think you can. There's
so much you can chop out of this movie and actually make not only a consistent story, but an entertaining monster film.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's what I wanted. I wanted a monster film. I wanted fighting and demons and cursing. I like that every time like he was running from the giants, you hear fuck or something like that. Like that is funny to me. That's Hellboy to me.
Yeah.
But for the length of this film, nah, man. I was in and out. I really was.
What's your over under on thinking we're getting a sequel for this thing?
No, I don't.
I think we'll get a Fantastic Four movie before.
See, the problem is I see this movie's critical success in the same level as The Mummy's critical success or Fan Four Stick's critical success, where it's a dark, weird casted film, a lot of angstiness, and then it's like 9% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a lot of the problem is a lot of the storytelling and a lot of the dialogue in The Mummy, in Fan Four Stick, and in this Hellboy all made it seem like there's going to be a sequel, there's going to be a franchise, but it bombs.
I stopped planning for that, by the way.
Yeah, you gotta stop doing that in your movies. If you don't know that you're gonna get a sequel, or it's not even if you know you're gonna get a sequel, the studios can come up to you right now and say, "Listen, I need you to write me a script for a 3-picture deal." Yeah. They can cancel the next 2 pictures if the critical success is terrible on the first one. They've done it before. Yeah. Franchises has gone down the water because of the first movie's critical success.
Well, that's another thing. Some people are saying that this means that you should have never given the wheel to anybody other than Guillermo Del Toro. I don't know if this property is solely a Del Toro.
I don't know if Del Toro can handle this thing.
You know what I'm saying? I think we give it another shot.
But look what they're adapting from.
It would be like if after Batman and Robin, you're like, I guess Tim Burton is the only one that could do this. Like, could you imagine that?
Don't. That's a bad train of thought.
It was just Tim Burton taking what he liked from Batman, and in the same way, Del Toro took what he liked from Hellboy,
which was the monsters, that stuff.
Give us somebody else. Give me somebody who likes detective work. If he is an investigator, we should be seeing some paranormal detective work.
Oh, I would see who I would want to Who would I want? Who would you want to direct the next one? If there's going.
Now he would never do a Hellboy film, but yeah, it's weird because investigator, you need somebody serious, but the rest of the content is very.
See, I think Denis Villeneuve, who's done Passengers and Arrival. Passengers was somebody else. What was that movie that was talking? Prisoners. That's the movie. It was Prisoners, Arrival, Sicario.
Did he do something else brand new recently? Freak.
Yeah,
after Arrival,
he did do something. He did do something recently that I can't remember. But yeah, I could see the reason why is because if you have a lot of the military aspects, a lot of the covert ops and the private investigating this, if you take a lot of that, you can see the action in Denis Villeneuve's movies, and you can apply it to Hellboy. You would just need a producer that can help the monster setup.
Blade Runner 2049.
That's right. Blade Runner 2049.
Next year, Dune.
Doom or Dune?
Dune.
100% just
Dune is basically he
just held my case right there. Yeah, if he can direct the movie, writing, directing, and producing, Dune.
And that's a lot of lore in that. There's a lot of lore in that book.
That's like a freaking 800-page book.
Yeah, so I mean,
that was the inspiration for Star Wars.
It definitely is possible. Man,
I could see Denis Villeneuve directing a Hellboy movie if there's no producing or studio interference.
And this is the most Hellboy movie you're probably gonna get in the sense that
it is
full of Hellboy stuff, but maybe just not. It felt like Scourge in
you know what it is? It's like,
look at all my stuff. That was all it was.
What can you name a comic book movie that would come off the top of your head where you see all your Batman vs Superman, for example, all of your favorite stories into one film?
You know what I said? Aquaman. Honestly, Aquaman, by putting in Black Manta, doing the stuff with his mother, that mother's thing, like the mother finding out that the mother was always in the whatever the hell,
And had the husband that was on sea. He was like a lifeboat or whatever.
But the thing is, in the comics, you're led to believe that because of that betrayal of her having a human child, that she's killed. And later on, you find out that she's not only is she alive, but she's like some other weird part of the world.
Yeah, you gotta like use the trident to unlock.
Exactly. And that happens in that film, along with the war for the ocean, along with Black Manta.
That's like
along with So they put like 4 different Aquaman things in this.
That's the problem with comic book. A lot of comic book movies that are not like fronted by big. Yeah.
When they don't trust the character to take off on its own, they feel like they need to saddle it with a heavy story.
So it's like let's take Superman's 6 most famous stories and make it into one movie. Let's take him versus Batman. Him versus Doomsday, him battling identity, all into one. That's what they did with Hellboy. It's like, let's take the Wild Hunt. Let's take the whole King Arthur angle. Let's take all of this stuff and just put it into a blender. Yeah. And it doesn't work like that.
And it definitely doesn't make it a better movie.
And not at all. I would have much rather handle at least take 1 or 2 of those stories, keep them together, or just take one of the stories and keep it as the plot. I would have loved that Knights of Templar crap.
I will be very interested to see if Del Toro said anything about it. And I am interested in seeing what their sequel stuff was looking like. Because, 1 and 2 did better in home release.
Dude, the first Hellboy has an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
that's
those
crazy.
Movies did very well after the theatrical releases. They didn't do great in theaters, but with Blu-ray and everything else like that, they got their money back, sometimes doubled it. But we're not in that world anymore, man.
No,
Netflix,
people,
Hulu,
yeah,
Disney
man.
Plus, you don't know that people are going to go out there and rip Hellboy off the shelves at Best Buy. It's not the same animal
We're
anymore.
going to get to the point where I'm telling you, in about 10, 15 years, DVDs are not even going to they're not even going to make DVDs anymore. Look how they stopped making VHS tapes.
Yeah.
They stopped making laser discs.
Yep.
They're going to stop making DVDs in about 15 years.
So if you're banking on the DVD market, you might as well just come out on DVD instead of coming out in theaters and then, doing it that way.
Well, now most people don't even do direct to DVD. They do direct to Netflix.
When we were doing the Hellboy episode, I said my best medium for this is a Netflix series.
Wow, a Netflix Hellboy series.
Monster of the Week Hellboy series with one overarching story, but every week he takes down a different.
No, just give us an anthology Hellboy. Just give us a regular every week. There's no story, but there's a story.
Yeah,
like
he deals with
every episode. You deal with,
and then he deals with Baba Yaga. And
but
then he deals
at the same time, of each
like
episode that he's dealing with a monster, you still have him writing in his identity crisis. Him talking with his father and wondering why people hate him and wondering why this and this and that. I could see stuff like that working perfectly.
But yeah, I don't know if it's going to work in this form because I do think that it's very delicate and I do think that it's a lot. To me, it would be the equivalency of making an Umbrella Academy movie. The exposition alone that it would take for you to get off the premise would take too long.
Oh my God.
It would take too long.
But people would have to watch the TV shows.
With episodes, you can sprinkle exposition in every episode. So
I've said that many times.
You don't have to front load it with an hour and a half of this is what we're gonna do, and then get to the half an hour of look we're doing it, and then it's over.
Yeah, that's why I always say like TV shows is a cheat for character development because like anything that needs to be said doesn't have to be said all at once. You can literally take 3 seasons to tell a person's story.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. People can have it. That's
why the Arrow show would work, but never the Arrow movie.
Because if you
the
want
Arrow movie would not work.
Change of heart characters, these complete 360 characters or 180 characters where they started off as a bad guy and ended up as a good guy, they don't seem to like do well in movies because like you have an hour and a half to 2 hours to tell us why we should like him, why he should be redeemable, why we should care about her, why she is a bad guy and now she's a good guy. Exactly. But with TV, it's like, let's start off on episode 1 of you killing the most important character of the show, and then let's have the final season, you're the biggest good guy of everybody. Once Upon a Time is a perfect example of that, because Once Upon a Time went from the Wicked Witch, Snow White's witch, that Snow White's stepmother, that wicked woman. She was a bad guy. For a whole, 3 seasons, she was the bad guy, dealing with an identity crisis of wanting to be good. Yeah. Then by the end of the series, she's a good guy, and now who was the good guy of the original first 3 seasons is now the bad guy, and you do these complete 180 characters. It's
and
like
that's the thing. I feel like in this movie they try to do that with Broom. Like, are we supposed to be suspicious of Broom? What's supposed to be the issue
well,
with that?
I think
And
the
then
thing was they just wanted to sweep the leg from us just for no reason.
But there was no sweet. There was no secret. We didn't find out anything.
Well, to me, him wanting to kill Hellboy as a baby, where
But he didn't know that was Hellboy.
No, I know that, but to me, I like.
You know what I'm saying?
But like when you look at people that don't know storytelling well or don't know the character's backstory and origins, when you were introduced with a character who's the parent or the parental figure of our main character, and then you get this revealing secret that they actually wanted to kill you when they first met you, but
isn't this
it's
the
the same
Jedi
thing exactly. It's the whole Last Jedi.
I woke up and his lightsaber was on in front of me.
It's all but the thing is, it's all how it goes. That's exactly how it goes. What's inconvenience and just misunderstandings, just blatant misunderstandings.
I guess if no one talks to each other, then it doesn't matter. Like,
I can't stand that. How do screenplay writers literally sleep at night knowing that they're writing in dialogue of a conversation they would never have in real life? No two people would ever talk like this in real life.
That's what I'm saying. Hellboy was speaking as if he had no idea what his origin was, and I don't feel like.
And he saw his origin through a crystal ball.
I don't think Broom would not tell him. I went down there to investigate something extremely dangerous.
See, that's where I have to disagree with you on that. For the simple fact is, if we had the John Hurt Broom, yes, he would 100% tell him his origin since he was a kid. Hellboy would have been known. Okay. This is how I felt. But the way Ian McShane was set up, he is a shady guy.
But then I don't need that. You understand what I'm saying? I don't need that.
But that's their fault. That's their flaws. Their problems.
That's like saying, and come on, man. In 2011's Man of Steel, like, we're not in that. I get it, but you're not supposed to.
It's the equivalent of Jonathan Kent telling Superman he should have let those kids drown. Here's your gun, Hellboy.
We need better father figures in these films.
No, we don't have good father figures in the last couple. No,
Wonder Woman didn't have a great father figure. That was Zeus, and he was basically not in that film the whole time.
I see. The problem is
didn't have a father figure.
In the comic books, was Wonder Woman made from clay to be the sort of?
What happens a lot now in comic books is that
they do the retcon.
But what happens is with these retcons, they place the retcon in something of truth in the comics.
So they completely fuck continuity.
So, for instance, we're led to believe, since Dark Knight's Metal, that there is this, like, omnipotent bat demon god. And that took a form of a bat that inspired Batman because he wanted Batman to become Batman so he could eventually... You know what I'm saying? So, like, I know
exactly what you mean.
And so it's like, you maintain what the original truth was, but
you sprinkle a little bullshit.
But it happened. You understand? It happened that day.
This is why it happened. Yeah, exactly. Butterfly flapped his wings, and Japan got an earthquake. Of course.
That's definitely it. And
oh my God! So now Wonder Woman's whole backstory is now she was a sword from clay. And
it's a lot of stuff. Yeah,
Lord have mercy.
But Hellboy's always been. That right hand has always been the key to the apocalypse, and they should have played more with that. They should have played more with the.
That's the hot problem is that it was like this movie. This movie was a buffet, and everything that they were picking to put on the plate for us to eat, like you're the child, and your mother is picking your plate for you at a buffet, and everything she's bringing you is green beans and salads and potatoes. There's no meat, there's no bread, there's no substance. Yeah. Your palate is gonna be completely messed up. All you have on your plate is vegetables. Ugh. And it's not that I'm saying I'm not saying vegetables is a bad thing, but I'm saying if I'm gonna eat some green beans, best give me some potatoes, some gravy.
There was no pancakes in this movie. Hellboy loves pancakes and cats. There was no cats in this movie.
There was there was one cat scene. It was when Hellboy was getting his remember when his father was like, "Here, let me do the filing for you," and then he goes over and sits on the couch, the cat, and he was petting a cat. I remember because the cat was black and white.
Oh, okay. So they did.
They had one. That's why I was nudging Jasmine. I was like, "Hey, look! He's petting a cat. He's petting a cat."
They kept their feline quota, I guess.
Well, that's basically like, having a Batman movie with no Alfred.
Yeah.
It's like, can you imagine just sitting through a 2-hour Batman film and never once hearing Alfred's name or even seeing him?
Alfred. But
Master Wayne.
I'm about done with this film.
I'm about ready to wrap this up too.
Is there anything you
David Harbour deserved better. Neil Marshall deserved better. Sam McCready deserved better. I'm just gonna
All right,
say it.
Hellboy
The guys that I
deserved
liked,
better.
the guys that I liked that did their thing deserved better. Oh man, they dragged poor Ian McShane into this, didn't they?
Hellboy deserves better. Also, I don't think David Harbour has many blockbuster leading roles, so I hope that this doesn't discourage people from
No,
casting him
please
because
don't, because he was really good in this film. I actually liked him as Hellboy.
Man,
It was his writing, and it was his writing that was bad, not even him.
you know what? He'd probably be a very good Hank McCoy.
Yo, wow.
Beast?
Now
He'd
that I'm
probably
seeing it,
be
he can
very good
capture the
Beast.
essence of.
Because I thought no one could beat
Alright.
Kelsey Grammer's Beast.
But that's the problem is there really will be nobody that can beat Kelsey Grammer. Even when you're introduced to that beast in Last Stand, he's upside down reading.
And he does say, "Oh my stars and garters."
He does say, "Oh my stars and garters,"
Which is like
when
the
they were
most-
going to
Yeah.
to Ellis Island or
That's
whatever.
like one of the most like 1920s sayings I've ever heard. So I
He's like,
did.
my stars and garters.
Oh my god, we're sorry. We saw Hellboy, so you didn't have to. But the great thing about it is, now that Hellboy's out of the way and our palate is a little bit cleansed, we get to go into full endgame territory.
We are 10 days away. Now, I just want you all to be very careful about scrolling the internet.
Yes.
Please, because last night I took a bullet so my friends don't have to.
There's been a bunch of guys. Yogi was also spoiled.
Oh, he ended up getting spoiled too?
Yeah, he was talking about it this afternoon. Thing is,
Oh, I didn't
I'm
read
not,
it.
although I
Damn.
post a lot for our social media, I'm not in a lot of social media stuff.
But see, this is what happened with me. So I'm scrolling through, ComicBook.com,
Yes.
that Facebook page.
Yes.
So I'm scrolling through, and ComicBook.com posted a story about Game of Thrones. And it was fans are not really liking the first episode of this season premiere. And I'm like,
what a clickbaity ass.
And I went to the comment section to see if people are really like that or if it's just one or two people in comicbook.com didn't like it and they're making an article about it. What happened was once I clicked on the comment section, bam, 3 pictures from a screenshot of a 45-minute video right in my face. 3 big pictures, and I am manifesting that it is fake and it's from the new Marvel Ultimate Alliance game that's coming out for the Switch. Here's a little bit of plug for Nintendo. Give us free stuff.
Please. Nintendo, give us money.
So yeah, I was scrolling through and then bam, 3 big pictures. 3 big and if they are really spoilers from the film, I just got one picture and one picture alone robbed me from the biggest pop of the film. No. Dude, I'm telling you, that one picture, it was the pop of the film.
I'm excited. When are you supposed to be seeing it?
I'm seeing it Thursday.
Okay, me too. But
I'm going to Williamsburg.
I'm going to Forest Hills. Don't go to Forest Hills and try to kill me though, by the way. We to whet our appetites for this, Dan, the comic book movie man, will be here next week on our next episode of Major Issues, where we will be tackling the instant classic, a movie that he doesn't.
So you people think
a movie that he's not really that much of a fan of, but he'll be getting all the opposition in the world. We're gonna go back in memory lane to Avengers 2012, the very first Avengers movie. We're gonna be seeing how much our characters have changed, how much of them have stood exactly the same.
I am actually really, really, really excited because I remember to prepare for Infinity War, I wanted to see the first Avengers because I wanted to see how far everybody came as well.
Yeah.
And I ended up watching it half asleep on my phone.
Yes.
And I literally fell asleep. I didn't rewatch it. I didn't go back to watch it. I only got up to the part where they're in the helicarrier, where Loki killed Coulson and everything.
Yeah.
And
With the red on your ledger.
And all I remember, the last thought I had in my head before I fell asleep was, wow, I really respect this movie more than I thought I did.
It's a good film.
It is a very, respectable...
And it also had to juggle a lot, so you may not get, the character payoffs that you may in, an Infinity War or a Civil War, but it was juggling a lot of that before we knew that, what a movie like that could look like.
Oh, no, that's the problem.
I love Civil War, Russo brothers and all that, but you don't get Civil War without realizing what you could do with Avengers.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
that's what I didn't understand when I first watched Avengers. All I saw was, why are these guys? It's literally an hour and a half of them fighting, and then it was 45 minutes of awesomeness, and I didn't understand it. I didn't want to understand it. I was very, no. I just want them to be cool and be one big happy family, and I'm too optimistic. I was optimistic. And then I realized, wait a minute, this is a repeating pattern that I saw in Age of Ultron now. And now I'm seeing it in Civil War. And I'm seeing it in other films. Does the MCU have a thing about realism where people actually kind of don't get along when they have opposing oppositions?
Well,
my God.
Not only that, like, they're really, like, the quality control for their character progression is amazing because
100%.
they maintain those. You're allowed as an adult to change your mind, and they all do. All those heroes.
And I feel like when you're an adult, if you are introduced with a new set of facts to the argument that helps you totter to the other side, then you should change your mind. You shouldn't ignore the facts in front of you.
It's the brown cow's quote.
Yes, the brown cow.
When I was young, I used to think that chocolate milk came from brown cows, but then I did some research and I figured out that no, it's just like chocolate syrup. And I didn't become a flip flopper because I did that. I just found out the truth.
Wow.
And that's what she says. She's like,
happy 10-year anniversary to the greatest comedy I've ever seen.
Parks and Rec. When they make a comic, we'll cover that too. But
I'm going to make a comic just so we can cover that show.
But remember, the next step on this road is going to be Avengers. So I'm going to go and do my best to post all over our social media so that I can get some of your comments about what you guys liked and disliked about Avengers. And watching it, how many years later? 8?
9.
Close to? 7.
2012, right?
7 years later. Yeah. 7 years later. But to be able to contact us, you're going to have to look up the Major Issues Podcast, like, share, and subscribe, get into all that kind of stuff. And we're available wherever podcasts are found. That's Stitcher, Podbean, Podcast Addict, the Apple iTunes podcast app.
Yes, sir. That's where I listen to our studios.
If you have an iPhone, that means you already got one already pre-installed. Just go to
the podcast. It's a purple little microphone app. Just click in Major Issues Podcast, and it'll be the first one that pops up with the yellow and black.
Yes, but if you can't find us there, the really easiest way to find us and follow us is to literally just Google Major Issues Podcast. Great thing is, enough people have done that already, so we're literally the first result.
Yeah, guys, honestly, straight up, if it's like if looking for podcasts ain't your thing, or you're using an Android where it's hard to really like have a job, where you haven't like downloaded the new JavaScript or whatever, then you can just straight up go to YouTube, type in Comic Book Clique, and we pop up. All of our shows pop up as soon as we pop up on the podcast.
Same thing with Google. Type in Comic Book Clique and we'll pop up. Podbean will pop up, and that's really who sponsors us or hosts all of our podcasts is Podbean.com. So if you go to that first link, you're able to see our entire library. You can like and comment, you can share, you can follow us, so you can know when every episode drops. And we usually drop an episode every Wednesday. We have not missed a single week release. Knock on wood.
Everything we do it for you.
It's the truth. And this is episode 71 already.
71 weeks, guys. We have been doing this for 71 weeks, and we love you.
Saturday is Comic Book Clique's 3rd birthday. Whoop, whoop.
Oh, shit. 420?
Yes, and if you want to wish Comic Book Clique a happy birthday, all you have to do is go to facebook.com/comicbookclique, Instagram @comicbookclique, or use the hashtag comicbookclique to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic book and comic book media. You can go to @MajorIssuesCBC, which is our Twitter machine, where we do all of our memes, our rumors, and our announcements for new merchandise and for a new podcast. So,
and if you want to talk to us, just talk to us, and you don't know where else to go, just drop us a line sometime on Instagram. I am one of the men that man the Instagram.
@Comic Book Clique, and don't forget, you can always email at Gmail. All of those links are in our show description, in our show notes. They are easy to click links, and you can just email us. Shop Comic Book Clique. We got merchandise, baby.
We love hearing from you, baby.
We got Major Issues shirts. We got Comic Book Clique shirts. We got Avengers shirts. We got Daredevil shirts. I've been making shirts for 3 years, and they're all available, all original. Go and grab your merch. Show that you're part of the team. Show that you're part of the clique. And,
why give those poor kids that make those shirts in Cambodia money? Why do Hot Topic?
Yeah, they're just using that money to make another Hellboy reboot, and you don't want that.
You definitely don't.
You don't want the money in the wrong hands. Do you want more pig people out here? Do you want more Mila Jovovich leading roles? Is that what you really want, people?
I can't take any more leather motorcycle biker fetish, dark brooding zombie movies with Mila Jovovich. I can't do it no more.
Oh, you will, and you will like it.
Paul W.S. Anderson has been killing me.
Neil Marshall will not be denied, damn it. And
Neil Marshall has nothing to do with that schlock fest.
BPRD.
Whatever.
Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense.
Bureau of Paranormal Research and
BPRD.
Defense.
Like the R&D department.
BPRD department. That'd be easy to remember.
BPRD department.
The BPRD department. It sounds like something that you like. Like your
Oh,
heart.
and last thing I want to say about Hellboy, Lobster Johnson should have got more stuff to do.
Yo, the problem with that.
Thomas Hayden Church.
Yo, I remember seeing the cast while we were waiting for the movie to start, and I said, "Holy crap, Thomas Hayden Church is in this movie!" I didn't see what his name character was. I just saw it said Thomas Hayden Church, and I'm like, "Whoa!" And he has like a third name billing on Google. It was David Harbour, Mila Jovovich, Thomas Hayden Church. That's how the casting billing went. So I thought he had a big part of this film, and then they give him this one Captain America scene.
And he's in the post credit, like I said.
He literally
that's not enough for me.
He literally reminded me of every superhero from
That's
Incredibles.
No, he's supposed to be like the Shadow and like the Spirit, like those kind of old school.
Oh my God, the Spirit,
the Phantom.
Oh, I think I just got our which is worse.
The Spirit or the Phantom?
Well, no, not the Phantom. I was thinking either
the Shadow,
the Spirit, and we could go Spirit, or we can go and what was the other one? I think Sin City 2.
You know what else is due for a watch for which is worse? Jonah Hex.
There we go. Jonah Hex and the Spirit.
But I feel like I want to do the Spirit and like the Phantom, like one of those other old school kind of. Because the Shadow, Alec Baldwin played the Shadow.
Oh, God.
There's also that, and Billy Zane played the Phantom. So we got a lot of those to look into.
I heard Jonah Hex wasn't bad though. Or am I thinking of some? No, wait, no, I'm thinking of the True Grit remake. Never mind.
Yes, those two are completely different.
Okay, then if we're gonna
talking about Megan Fox.
Oh my
Jonah
God!
Hex,
Oh yes, okay. If we're gonna do Jonah Hex,
Josh
then
Brolin.
Then what was that other one? There was another movie that was just like Jonah Hex that came out that I'm trying to remember. It had to have been a comic book movie.
Like Jonah Hex?
Yeah, that was like Daniel Craig.
Cowboys and Aliens.
Yes, there you go. Is that a?
No,
that's not a comic book
that's
property. That's just a stupid.
Ones. I might be wrong. If I am, email. Let us know. But yeah, to my knowledge, that's not a comic book movie. Cowboys and Aliens.
Yeah.
Even though Daniel Craig basically looks like a comic book character. But my name is George Serrano, a.k.a. The Don.
I am Dan, the comic book movie man, and all that goodness.
And this has been our Hellboy 2019 recap and review. And remember, whether or not you've been destined to bring about the apocalypse, whether all your haters have cut you into different boxes and sent you all over the world, whether you're just some pig man who wants to live as a beautiful little girl, whether you talk to your relatives as they come out of your mouth and they are some amorphous blobs,
whether you're a blood queen that had your body parts all over Europe, but it was technically just London.
If you have to sand down your horns, if you can't help that sometimes you're a vampire, remember that we are the Clique, and you, yes you, are worthy.